Hey now, we are getting over, and I am the Silver King, Adam Silverstein, here to lead you through these hard times. With your 2025 WWE WrestleMania 41 Night 2 Instant Analysis. That's right, Getting Over is back. Once again, we are here just moments after the second night of WWE WrestleMania 41 went off the air to break down every single match and happening on the card. We'll analyze them, tell you our highlights, give you some grades, and of course, we will wrap it up at the end with a bow and a final grade for WWE WrestleMania 41, both Night 2 and the show as a whole. Vintage Chris Vanini will be along momentarily, but off the top, I just want to remind everyone that we already have 2 instant analysis podcasts in the feed for you to listen to. First, NXT Stand and Deliver, taped on Saturday afternoon, and of course, WWE WrestleMania 41 Night 1 instant analysis, taped, of course, Saturday night. So whether you listen to those before or after this show, make sure you listen to both instant analysis. Also, before we get into the show quickly, allow the Silver King to remind you that the Getting Over Wrestling podcast
is all about the fire.
So head over to Apple Podcasts and Spotify, leave a 5-star rating on Apple, take a little extra time, leave a 5-star written review. If you do, we will read it live right here on the show. Subscribe to us on YouTube at Getting Overcast, full-length audio and full-length video interviews there on YouTube. Follow us on social media at Getting Overcast on Twitter, at Getting Over on Blue Sky. You get episode drops, news, analysis, highlights, all of that good stuff. You can send in questions and comments for the show. So many of you did. We will address those on our second looks, WWE on Tuesday, NXT on Wednesday. So please send in those questions and comments. I promise we will read and respond to all of them, whether on the air or on social media. And you also get to vote in pre- and post-show polls surrounding premium live events like WrestleMania, and your votes, your opinions, factor into our final grade segment at the end of this show. Now, because this is an instant analysis edition of the Getting Over Wrestling podcast, we kick this off in a special way, and that is by cracking open a cold one. Now, the Silver King had 2 different brews ready for WrestleMania 41 Night 2. The first would have come if Stone Cold Steve Austin got involved in the main event, because I did indeed have a Steve Austin Broken Skull IPA at the go. Unfortunately, Austin did not get involved, and therefore I'm drinking Copper Point Brewing Coffee Lager, which is a delicious beer right here in South Florida. It's one of my favorites, but unfortunately, the Stone Cold IPA that will stay in the refrigerator. Vintage, welcome to the show. What do you got over there?
Well, given the way John Cena's entrance was and his kind of toned down gimmick, I decided to do that with my drink to match the feeling coming out of that show. And that is why I have a Mike's Hard Lemonade in my hand right now. Okay. John Cena's going to ruin pro wrestling. This is going to, I don't know, ruin
your stomach.
Good alcohol on this show.
Yeah, it's going to ruin your stomach for sure. Well, look, we have a lot to talk about from WWE WrestleMania 41 Night 2. And we're going to go match by match as we always do. We are going to start with the main event, of course, go through the rest. Before we talk about all the matches, though, a couple quick notes at the start of the show. I wanted to open with a correction that also serves as a level of praise for WWE production. I took a second look at those big vertical screens that were hanging over the entrance ramp. I did this by watching Night 1 before, of course, Night 2 even started. The reason I thought some or all of them were AR is because I guess I had my head down for so long typing notes. I never noticed them high up in the air on the wide shot. So I assumed if they disappeared and came back into the picture, then they just must have been a graphic, right? So I had no clue that they could physically get lowered and raised and they were as big as they were. So yeah, that's why I thought some of them were AR. Watching with fresh eyes, they looked incredible, even during the daytime for the Jey Uso entrance, but they shined, Chris, for the Roman Reigns entrance. It was actually a shame that WWE didn't use them for more entrances over both nights.
Agree. They were fantastic. I liked the set more, too, on the second night. So overall, production-wise, in terms of the physical stage and everything, top-notch as always.
It really was. Steph McMahon opened Night 2 with some speech about how WWE is family. Well-intentioned, I'm sure. It came across real empty. They went from hiding Steph from public view to like testing the waters with her to now shoving her down our throats. I don't mind her opening the show. I like Steph in general, But the promo for me was a big yikes, and it was just a little odd as a way to start WrestleMania night 2.
I don't know. She did the same thing last year. So Triple H
Not with a
does one night.
speech about family, though.
I don't remember what she said, but it was the first time we'd seen her in a while.
Yeah.
So Triple H opens one, Stephanie opens the other. I get it. I couldn't tell you what she said. I don't remember. It was that unmemorable.
Did you notice that the announce table between the English and Spanish tables were flipped on night 2 with no explanation? And I don't believe a spot where that made sense either, unless it was the Braun Breaker spear because they wanted Pat McAfee to go crazy and they wanted to do it in that direction. I don't know why they switched the tables. I've never seen the English main announce table not directly in front of the ring before.
I did not notice, but that's probably the reason, I would imagine.
That was just crazy. It just didn't make any sense. And lastly here, Stone Cold Steve Austin, he may not have factored into the main event, but he did enter before the main event because he drove an ATV down to the ring with a crazy and clearly unsafe amount of speed. He actually crashed into the LED barricade, making his third turn around the ring, and he had to park it there. I think it got lodged. He had to check on a lady because he hit the barricade, and the lady got like knocked backwards into her chair, and he checked on her first. Then at the end of the segment, Nick Khan was out there talking to her. He came by a second time to check on her. Now, look, Austin got crazy pops. He announced a record attendance and 125,000 for the weekend, called them solid ass cats, referring to his viral social media video. He did some Steve Weisers. He drank, whole deal. That's all the Austin we got on the night. It was simultaneously disappointing to not get him involved in anything, yet at the same time, at least we got Stone Cold on the show. But I am going to be extremely curious to find out what happens with that woman. It seemed like she was just angry and shocked. I don't think she was physically hurt, but man, that was a weird moment.
Yeah, she didn't like get hit and go flying back. The barricade gets hit and she kind of like stumbles backwards. But when Nick Khan is out there and on screen when Steve Austin's walking away, that tells you the WWE was very concerned about what may come of this. So we will see. Overall, underwhelming Stone Cold Steve Austin appearance.
Yeah.
Better than no appearance, but kind of set the tone for what came after.
To a degree, we will have that conversation right now. So it is time to break down every single match from WWE WrestleMania 41 Night 2. And I'll just remind you one more time, our full Night 1 instant analysis is a separate podcast already in the feed. So make sure you listen to that after this one if you have not already. So we had Cody Rhodes and John Cena, the final face-to-face between them at main evented SmackDown, with Cena interrupting Rhodes before he could speak. There was more noise and booing than either chant. This came after, point of order, the crowd sang Cody's theme word for word when he entered. Cena told Cody to shut his mouth. It's his 20th WrestleMania, 12th title match. There's nothing he could do to prepare for a man who knows he's going to die. Proverbially, of course. Cena said no other wrestlers actually retire because they're scared, insecure losers who need the fans, and he doesn't. All he needs is to take the WWE title away from them all. Cena promised Cody will lose because he cares too much. He said he knew he couldn't beat Rhodes at WrestleMania until he heard how Rhodes answered The Rock. He cared more about doing what's right than doing what's necessary to win. And this, of course, would factor into the match. Cena said he sided with Rock to prove the fans don't matter, and Cody will have to make that choice again Sunday, do what is right, or actually try to win. Cena said Cody is strong, tough, and driven, but he's scared, insecure, and naive. He's not the captain or the quarterback. He's a kid without balls in a man's world. Cody actually got booed time and again when he spoke. And it's literally the first time that's happened since he returned to WWE. He fought through it, saying Cena is overrated, overbearing, out of touch, out of time, and sanctimonious. He also insulted his looks, saying he was paler than Sting at Starrcade 97, and he talked about him being naked at the Oscars, calling him a Hollywood errand boy who still can't wrestle. Fans booing literal seconds earlier popped their asses off and suddenly did the Cody Rhodes type of chant, and they did it loud. Cena used that, the back and forth reaction of the fans, to say that they don't know what they want and to beat him, that he doesn't actually have to wrestle. Cena went thumb to the eye. He tried an AA. Cody escaped and again hit Crossroads to stand tall. This was incredible crowd work from both of them on SmackDown, Chris, but especially Cody being able to turn boos into chants literally inside of 2 minutes. Didn't even understand the boos. It just seemed like smart bullshit, just to be honest, which kind of proved Cena's promo right unintentionally. But literally, it's the first time he was booed since returning on the go home to WrestleMania, and Cody was able to flip everyone on a dime. That is insane crowd work. You could argue it was generational promo recovery given the timing of it. It's the type that should be shown in every promo class in every wrestling school. And that's not even mentioning this shit that was straight up fire promo from Cody, particularly the Sting and Oscars lines. Red hot barbs right there. He cooked, smoked, fried, you pick your verb. He eviscerated Cena with the Hollywood barb. Not as hot overall as their explosive face-to-face a few weeks ago, but it was a perfectly strong go-home segment. It filled in some gaps, such as the specifics of Cena's turn toward Rock, but it would have hit far better as a go-home if the storyline had been better built previously. Instead, it kind of felt like something you would get 2 weeks out. But we did have Cody standing tall again, as he had every time since Elimination Chamber, and that basically confirmed that Chris is going to need to learn the lyrics to Cena's entrance theme. Didn't you think?
Yeah. Yeah, well, obviously, we'll get to that. It's not happening on the show. We will get to the bet and everything after we talk about the match. Don't worry. I'm well aware. The promo was fine. I mean, Cody's reply was good, but I mean, like, these things are generally like scripted, so it's not like I don't think he just came up with that. But it was good. Ultimately, it still felt like a weird go-home segment for a story.
Wait, hold on. The promo was fine.
It was good,
Chris. It was.
No. I'm saying when you're saying generational promo.
No.
He literally just went to the next line that he was going to say.
It was a generational effort on the mic to take a crowd that was booing him vociferously and flip it into literally chanting his name inside of 2 minutes. And the reason it was generational is not because he did that. It's because he did it on the go home to WrestleMania.
It was good. Yeah, I'm not calling it generational when he replied to good lines from Cena with good lines of his own. That's what it was.
I'm saying it's a generational recovery, not that it was an incredible... Like, the promo itself was really good. He had some good lines.
All he did recovery was come back with a really good line, which was a really good line. I'm just saying it's not like Cody was...
It wasn't singular, though. It was the entire promo that accomplished that.
All right.
Yeah, I really don't mean to argue like semantics over it, but I mean, what he accomplished on the go home was incredible. I find it very weird that you're downplaying it to the degree you are.
I came out of the segment disappointed because we again didn't get The Rock, and we didn't really add any more to the story. They just hit the same notes that we did, which ended the build to the match. But that's not
true. Like,
yes, it did.
It's frustrating me the way you've approached this from the standpoint that they literally added context to... Now, it may not be what you wanted. It's not what I wanted. Certainly not. But he explained why he went to The Rock. He explained the context of what Cody would need to do to beat him at WrestleMania and why he wouldn't do it. It literally set up the main event of WrestleMania, like it or not. It was not just a throwaway promo segment. I mean, it had specific and direct value.
Promo segment.
It had specific and direct value. And what Cody achieved, again, when getting booed in that space, in that circumstance, on the go home to WrestleMania, I thought the way he turned that around, I'm not saying you have to agree that it was a generational promo recovery, but I don't think it was just fine, which is what you said initially and why I'm kind of fighting back a little bit.
Fair enough. We got a lot more to get to. We don't need to get bogged down in this part.
Okay. So there was an incredible video package, as one would expect for the match. Cena entered to his theme wearing the same clothes, but there was no Titantron. It was all black. It just said John Cena in white letters. He held the towel behind his head, slowly walked to the ring while getting serenaded. It was like they attempted to do the One Night Stand 2006 redo, but for a larger stadium where you can't really do it. They're not all next to you. Yeah. I loved it, though. I thought it was great. Cody's entrance had a really strange start with different music and an Evel Knievel-like motorcycle group doing stunts. There's no way they executed that as intended. There was also something really weird where, like, all 3 times Cena walked in and around the entrance over this night, like another person walked out and like moved something. It was really kind of off-putting. Maybe they can AI them out in the future or something like that. Yeah. But there was no way that Cody's went executed as intended. And then he got his regular entrance with an Iron Man style American Nightmare mask. Visually, it wound up hitting, but it was really convoluted. Cody got massive pops. They sang the song all the way through his entrance into the ring. And then when they did the ring announces, he got booed, which was really odd. Did you have any thoughts on these entrances?
Not just Cody, but all the entrances for Mania had not great transitions. Like, someone would drive up and then they would start the entrance. None of them really flowed for whatever reason. And Cody's was one of them too. Cena, I would have loved, it wasn't going to happen, obviously. I would have loved for him to come out with a different song, but he doesn't. It hasn't changed. I get it. It's fine. Real quick, Cody Cody had an interview with Michael Cole on the kickoff show that was really good.
Mhm.
And honestly,
Yes,
did as
you're right.
as good a job as anything is actually telling and selling the story of this match by saying that Cole asked Cody if he'd ever leave for Hollywood like The Rock and Batista and everybody else did. And Cody says basically like, I don't have to. And Cody says, Cena keeps saying he never left, but he did leave. He's kissing James Gunn ass.
Mhm.
He's doing all this stuff in Hollywood. If you haven't watched it, it kind of doesn't matter at this point, but it was really good and the kind of stuff I would have loved to have seen more of, frankly, on TV building up to the match and not just a kickoff show.
I'm glad you brought it up because I saw it happening on the kickoff show, but I wasn't directly in front of my computer, so I wasn't able to like take any notes. Then I didn't want to rewind it. But what I heard as I was listening to it, I was like, man, that's some really good storytelling. I wish they would have incorporated that. And that's not the only time that happened on the kickoff show. It happened with Rhea Ripley. It happened, I think, with Charlotte Flair a little bit. And there were one or two other interviews over those 6 hours of countdowns the last 2 days where they had interview segments and comments made by these wrestlers that did a better job telling the story for their matches than like what they actually did.
Yep.
Which I thought was crazy. So, all right, let's get to the match. So Michael Cole started this by promising to call the match down the middle, which like, yeah, dude, that's your job. The crowd was on fire at the lockup. Not quite rocking Hogan, obviously, but how could it be? Cena firmly worked heel using the ropes to avoid offense, hitting tight power moves. It was extremely old school with flying axe handles and stuff. And then suddenly, Cena hit a tornado DDT. He followed by methodically doing the 5 moves of doom, taking a lot of time between each move. So Cody paid him back with a thumb to the eye, disaster kick, and Cody cutter. At this point, the crowd straight up turned. They booed Cody every single time he got offense and cheered everything Cena did, including an attitude adjustment for a false finish. Then he knocked Cody on the top rope, hit an avalanche AA, another false finish. Cody caught an attempted flying leg drop into a powerbomb. Then he added a double jump Cody cutter. Cena countered Crossroads into a third AA, moving into the STF 3 different times. The referee got bumped into the corner. That allowed Cody to hit Crossroads, but no one was there to count the fall. Cena exposed the turnbuckle. Rhodes checked on the referee. Cody ate 2 different turnbuckle shots. And then he took a 4th AA for a 2.99 false finish. Suddenly, Fiend hit with Travis Scott entering and Cena laughing. In the middle of the match, for some reason, John just waited for this guy to make a 5-minute walk to the ring. Then he physically helped him onto the ring apron and raised his arm. This resulted in a Crossroads on Cena, with Scott pulling the referee out to stop the count. Cody dared Travis to enter the ring and swing at him. He tried. Rhodes obviously caught it, hit a Crossroads. Then he rolled him off the canvas. And I will credit Travis Scott for one thing. He sold the hell out of that Crossroads. So kudos to him on that. Cena grabbed the WWE title. Cody prevented a belt shot. John begged Cody not to use it when he stole it back. And then when he ultimately chose to be a face and not use it, Cena low-blowed him without hesitation, landed the belt shot, and got a delayed 1-2-3 to win his 17th World Heavyweight Championship, break Ric Flair's WWE created record, and take the main event of WrestleMania 41. Huge pop for Cena getting the win. Scott came in, raised Cena's arm to another big pop. Commentary sold this as Cody being the good guy, costing him. Cena going to the dark side and doing what was required to become the GOAT. The match went longer than 25 minutes. I don't have an exact time. The celebration extended for a few minutes after the bell. After it faded to black going into the post show, Cena got some boos, then thank you Cena chants, then some boos, then cheers, and he walked up the stage with a smile. He wore the WWE Championship backward around his waist and walked to the back. I presume the idea was that it was the last time we would see the WWE Championship, but it's not because he's going to be on Raw Monday night. So I was a little bit confused at what that visual was meant to convey, but nevertheless, that's what he did.
It's a Dolph Ziggler move.
Yeah, I don't think that's exactly why he did it, but yes, Dolph did. He used to do that in the past. Look, there's a bunch of different ways to look at this match and the result of the main event and really WrestleMania as a whole. Each and every one of us knew coming into this match a few things. Number 1, they would try to do an epic Rock Hogan style match. Number 2, Cena at 47 was not going to put on any semblance of a quality wrestling match since he has not done so in literal years. His last singles victory was 7 years ago, and every time we've seen him, we've been disappointed at what he's actually done in the ring. Maybe with the exception of Elimination Chamber, which I think he actually did a good job. We also knew that there would be substantial interference that factored into the finish, and we knew coming in that Cena would leave with the WWE Championship. And because of those 4 factors, there was not a single second where I thought that this was going to be a great match, bell to bell. What I hoped was that the storytelling would be nails, so it would overcome the match elements that we all knew were coming. And unfortunately, that did not happen. They successfully did the good guy, bad guy dynamics. And they followed up exactly what Cena said on the SmackDown Go Home. He promised Cody that he would lose the title because he cares too much. He said he knew that he couldn't beat Rhodes at WrestleMania until he heard how Rhodes answered The Rock. He cared in that moment more about doing what was right than doing what was necessary to win. And Cena said he would force Cody to make that choice again Sunday, do what is right, or actually try to win. And that is the exact choice that he made him decide in the middle of this match. What I actually liked about this, I'll start with the positive, is first of all, that they followed that up. But the way Cena wrestled, he did the ground-based attack. He just tried to brutalize Rhodes because he knew that was the only way he could actually win. But one of the major problems that WWE had no control over, the Las Vegas crowd all weekend booed Cody for no reason whatsoever. And that absolutely killed the entire face-heel dynamic and the entire match story that they were trying to accomplish. That's not booking. That's not creative. That's fans randomly impacting what was planned for them. But that could have been overcome. What hurt this booking most for me was the finisher spam and Travis Scott being there at all, but really Travis Scott being there without The Rock. I get that he's a celebrity. I get that this will probably go viral in some corners for WWE, but it's one thing to use him for an Elimination Chamber main event heel turn. It is quite another to have him be a key piece that helps Cena win a 17th championship in WWE in the main event of WrestleMania. Again, without The Rock. Like, what's the story? Cena sold out to The Rock in Hollywood so he could get help winning the title in the main event of Mania, which, by the way, he won the opportunity to get on his own in Elimination Chamber, but not from The Rock. The Rock's not helping him. From a rapper. Only Travis Scott, of all people, could actually help Cena, the GOAT, beat Cody. Making this even rougher is that Scott came out and took forever to get to the ring, right when the match was finally starting to build a little bit of momentum. If Rock was not going to be there, Scott should not have been there either. Rock not making himself available for WrestleMania is an absolute joke. There was no reason to involve either of them if Rock was not going to be at Mania. Just have Cena turn heel in the main event on his own. You get the double shock of the title win and the heel turn, and you're off and running. Rock wound up adding absolutely nothing to this. All of this said, I do feel people are going overboard, saying this was terrible, awful, garbage, all of that. I saw people saying it's the worst WrestleMania main event of all time. No, it's not even the top 5. It's not even the worst WrestleMania main event in Las Vegas.
Buddy Lawrence Taylor wrestled in a main event of WrestleMania.
So, I'm not sure if this is people getting worked into anger at Cody losing the title this way, or Cena winning the title in that way, or the fans booing Cody when they should have cheered, or if everyone just feels like they have to go nuts with all their takes. I disagree with those extreme opinions. However, there is no denying that this match and booking failed to achieve its goal. Part of that was the weak story. Part of that was the involvement of Travis Scott without The Rock being there. None of that getting addressed. But a large part of it, I legitimately believe, was the fans not playing along, which they have done week to week, month to month, over the last 3 years when it comes to Cody. That could not have been anticipated on Sunday night, and it took something that struggled on its own, that had problems on its own, and it completely exacerbated it. As far as a grade, I don't know, 2.25 stars in a C. It was the worst match on WrestleMania, and it was the main event of night 2, and that's not good.
This is way too long into the podcast for me to be able to say that finish sucked. It was terrible. Not the whole match. I actually liked most of the match. I liked Cena working heel.
Agreed.
I thought it was interesting.
Yeah.
I thought he did a good job. We've never seen him do it. I was into the match. But the finish was garbage. And The Rock not showing up after being the reason Cena turned heel was garbage. I cannot imagine this was the plan all along. To your point, I would have just done Cena versus Cody, good guy, who's the best, and then you turn heel in the main event, and you've got something. However you want to turn, you figure it out. I don't know. But like the story build to this match sucked because it started with The Rock. The whole thing was The Rock. The Rock wanted Cody's soul. He's the one who popped in on TV to say, this is what we're going to do at Elimination Chamber, by the way. That was the close to the show, the last pay-per-view. The Rock slitting his throat there with Cena, and then he never showed up again. That's garbage. I'm sorry. Like, that's not Cody's fault. That's not Cena's fault. But that's a joke. And I don't know if Triple H knew or what. I don't know what the deal was with that not happening. But I can't imagine this terrible story was the plan. The heel turn has sucked so far. It can be really good. I am really interested in Cena as heel champion moving forward. But they are losing the benefit of the doubt. Because I went the whole last month and a half thinking, all right, they're saving it for Mania. They're saving the big stuff for Mania. I think it was even, Friday or Saturday or whatever, like Triple H like hyped up what was going to happen on Sunday, calling it like, he said it was going to be one of the craziest.
He said something like, this is going to be a moment that everyone will remember or something to that degree. Yeah.
Like, I get we're not going to remember because it sucked, and I'm not going to want to go back and watch
we're going to remember it just for all the wrong reasons.
Yeah, but like I even watched the finish again. I was like, man, I'm never going to like come back and watch this magic moment. So the Travis Scott of it all, I know he's a huge deal, but is that the guy you want for this like record-breaking moment here? Like someone made the comment, I forgot who it was. It's like Lil Wayne in being involved in the main event of WrestleMania 24 or something like that. Like they're big, but it's not Mike Tyson helping Steve Austin at WrestleMania 14, you know? So that's weird. And I thought the reason Travis Scott was walking so slow and Cena I thought The Rock was coming. I was like, all right, this is all.
Yeah, I thought he was going to stop halfway down the ramp. And then if you smell.
Yeah, I was like, wait, it's like a build up for The Rock. And no, he did sell that Crossroads really well.
Yeah.
But the other part of it is he didn't actually factor into the finish because Cena goes for the belt shot. Cody blocks it anyway and gets the belt. Like it ultimately didn't even matter.
Well, his importance was that he pulled the referee out of the ring on the Crossroads.
That's true. I take that back.
I'm just saying. I'm not like arguing with you. I'm just saying like
no.
That was something that happened. Yeah.
I forgot about that part.
Yeah.
Your bit on the fans. I think the reason they were booing Cody, I think, is simply because they wanted to see history.
Totally.
They wanted to see John Cena break the record. And even if he was a heel and even if he cut those promos against the fans, you still want to see the guy break the record because then you can say you were there. And I think that's ultimately what it is. I don't think Cody's going to be getting booed from town to town at this point.
No, I don't think so either. Yeah.
The situation of that moment. And it wasn't, like you said, it wasn't WrestleMania 18 where they were all in for Cena and totally hated Cody. They were pretty close to 50-50. Yeah, both of them. Cody probably got a boot a bit more, but there was a lot of Cena sucks in there too. So it was kind of a real mixed bag of fans in terms of the story that was told. So
can I briefly interject and just add one thing to what you're saying?
Yeah.
I always hate interrupting you, but I completely agree with the point you made. Monday night on Raw, well, I guess they may still be in Las Vegas, so perhaps not Monday night on Raw, but like next week on Raw or all the other times that we see Cody, he's going to get massively cheered. This was the culmination of a smart crowd with a historic moment in a city like Las Vegas, where the fans decided we care more about Cena in 17 than we do cheering the guy we've cheered for 3 years, even though he's done nothing wrong, and we're still going to continue cheering him. We're still going to sing his song when he comes out. And we're still going to do the Cody Rhodes chant. And when he cuts a great promo, we're going to pop for him. But we want to see Cena winning 17 more than anything else because that's the type of fans we are. And that's the show that you've presented to us. And WWE Creative, Paul Levesque, Triple H, anyone else involved in this, they probably should have seen that coming. And if they didn't, then this is a huge learned lesson for them in the future.
The whole build up to the end where Cody won't do the thing he has to do to win. Like, I know it's a classic wrestling story, but he just went through this with Kevin Owens and he did the thing. And he went to another level to be unnecessarily violent to beat Kevin Owens at the Royal Rumble. So it's not like Cody's never done that before.
So
that's true. It's not like Cody's been total white meat babyface the whole time.
No, like Cody's been willing to go to the extreme, but there's a difference between going to the extreme and cheating. And in this case, it would have been cheating to do a belt shot on Cena. And he draws the line there because he's a white meat babyface. So it's a fair point to a degree. I think it made him look wimpy is probably the best way to put it. Like, it made him look like he just
made him look dumb. It made him look dumb. And
he didn't have any balls.
You make your baby. It was a classic Vince thing, was to have the dumb baby faces.
Yeah.
And they've generally avoided that with Cody as champion, which is why it's worked so well. From the beginning of his promo with Cena, like, Cody was standing firm and standing strong. And that's why we liked him, because he was a champion who wasn't dumb and knew everything that was coming. So that was a little bit disappointing.
And that's a great point. But don't forget, I mentioned this, like, I think twice already. And I'm not saying that you weren't listening or anything, but that was literally the story coming into the match, is that Cody cares too much about the fans. He cares too much about the title. He's not going to do what's necessary. And he didn't do what's necessary. Cena put him in a choice, and Cody chose the wrong side, and it cost him the WWE Championship. So, they delivered on that. Now, if it made him wimpy and it made him look like he didn't have any balls, yeah, it did. Like, I completely agree. And they probably could have done it way better than they did. But that was the story. And if you're going to give us that as you're going to lay that up, or you're going to throw it in the air, you got to kind of slam it home. And Cody did slam it home. He looked like a wimp doing it, but he did.
But I do think also that wasn't consistently the story from the beginning when it could have been.
No, it wasn't. It was the go home. No, it was only the go home.
Yeah. And one other thing.
Sure.
They announced right before the match that Cena was going to be on McAfee's show.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, that was just a straight up giveaway that he was going to win. And I'm not the only one who thought that. My sister-in-law texted me. She doesn't watch a lot of wrestling, but she watches some. She texted me. She says, I think Cena's definitely going to win now because he's going on the show tomorrow. Like, I didn't understand doing that either.
It was absolutely effing ridiculous. And Chris, that's not the first time they mentioned it. They mentioned it on the Countdown show. Before WrestleMania even began, they said Cena's going to be a guest on Pat McAfee's show at noon on Monday. Now, they said win or lose, but you're not putting Cena on that show as a loser. It was absolutely ridiculous. They could have waited until after the bell. They could have said it at the press conference. Pat McAfee himself could have said, hey, guess what? We're going to have John Cena on the show Monday at noon. Just confirmed it. There was no need to say that ahead of time. It was absolutely effing stupid. And yes, it did give away the main event of WrestleMania. Absolutely.
Because the other person on the show was Paul Heyman.
Yeah.
Who was on the winning side of the other main event.
It was unbelievable that they did that. I was so furious. Now, look, we knew Cena was winning anyway, but we're people who talk about this all the time, right?
I picked Cody. To be fair, I picked Cody. So.
Okay, well, you had to pick Cody, though, but you knew Cena was winning. And we'll talk about that in a moment. But, if you're a kid watching that, if you're 13 years old and you're watching with your parents or something, you're like, what? Dad, Mom, why is he going to be on the show? What if he doesn't win? Well, because he's going to win, son. That's why. It was awful. Awful. They should never do that again. I was so angry about that. A couple other notes here before we get out of this match. Cena showed up at the press conference with his side plates already on the WWE title. I think it said 17th or something on them. And he threw Cody's dismissively off to the side. He promised to stand tall as the last real WWE champion and answer all of the media's questions like a champion should. To every single question that was then asked to him, a couple of them were actually decent. He gave the same response. That seems like a clickbait question. You're just looking for headlines. I'm not going to answer that next question. Cena then told everyone to tune into Monday Night Raw to see how he's going to ruin wrestling. I actually thought this was really funny. Maybe it's just me. I was laughing along, and I thought he killed the press conference, like in a positive way.
My first thought was, when he said he was going to take questions, I was like, what the heck? He didn't take questions at the Rumble when I was about to ask him a question, and I was going to take it. That's actually a face thing. Taking questions from the media is a face thing to do. I was like, what the hell? But he got us, and it was a good bit.
Just to wrap this up, going back to our conversation from the Ultimate Preview, no matter how anyone feels about this main event, I do believe what we previously discussed is accurate. This was not in any way a coronation for Cena as a record breaker or a culmination of a story or an event meant to be a moment that stands on its own. It was clearly booked to kick off a line of creative that will last the entirety of Cena's retirement run through the end of the year and ultimately for Cody into WrestleMania 42. There's absolutely no doubt about that coming out of this show.
Completely agree. This is some people had said the heel turn was terrible. No, the heel turn's only just starting.
Right.
There's clearly a lot to go for now. And I hope it's good. I think there's a really good chance it could be good. I wondered if the heel turn would only be about a month and then he'd come back or whatever. But no, they're clearly going to go with a long heel run here, which is interesting and should be good. If Cena is there most of the time, that is my concern.
Yes.
He said in kayfabe he was going to retire the belt or not show up or anything. Now, we did say he'll be there on Monday Night Raw, but how often is he going to be there week to week?
Yeah, I think if he was walking out with the title like we feared was going to be the storyline, and I think he kind of botched that explanation in that promo that he gave, a month ago at this point. I think if he was going to do that, he would have walked out with the title around his waist backwards the last time we would see the WWE Championship, and then we wouldn't see him. But the fact that he literally said, first he showed up at the press conference, and then he literally said, I'm going to be at Raw on Monday night. It tells me that our concerns to that end were at least not valid, or maybe they were valid at the time, but they're not reality. And that's a huge positive because there's no way that should have been the storyline if you have this retirement run ongoing. Now, before we completely leave this match, there is one more item that I know our listeners are getting overheads are extremely curious to hear, because a wager was made between the Silver King and Vintage over whether John Cena would win a 17th WWE Championship or a World Championship in WWE before the year was out, before his retirement run came to its conclusion. The Silver King said he would, Vintage said he wouldn't, and we decided that the stakes, actually, I think it was a listener who suggested it. And please go ahead and send us a DM because you deserve credit. I want to shout out your name because it was a fantastic, option to put as a wager for this. Was that the loser, whoever was wrong, would have to rap live on this show one of John Cena's entrance themes. And as is usually the case here on the Getting Over Wrestling podcast, I'm being facetious. But as was the case at least this time, the Silver King won, Vintage lost. And buddy, get ready to learn the words to Basic Thugonomics. I actually haven't decided which one you're going to rap yet, but that will be coming, Chris, on a future episode of the Getting Over Wrestling podcast. And I, for one, cannot effing wait.
So I was hoping it would go on for a while. Like we could have this last for a long period of time.
3 3/4 of a month. The payoff came quick.
Yeah, because it was late. It was late last year or early this year where we made that decision.
I believe it was after he made that announcement. It may have been on one of our year-end shows.
It might have been. It was before the Rumble.
It was before the Royal Rumble. Definitely. Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm doubly torn because I hated the main event and I have to do this. So it's you at least got something out of it.
Oh, I did. Yeah.
So no, that'll be personally, if you want to embarrass me more, I think Basic Thugonomics is way more embarrassing.
See, you keep pushing it so much that I feel like you know the words already and you're pretty confident about the cadence. And I don't know.
The other one I know. The other one I could do without even looking at the lyrics. I'm going to have to look up the lyrics to Basic Thugonomics.
Okay, so I'm going to decide. I don't know how I'm going to decide which song it's going to be. I may choose myself. I may post it on Twitter and let our listeners, the Getting Overheads, vote. I kind of feel like because it happened in less than 4 months, you should probably do a verse from both. But I don't know. We'll have to think this through. What I do know is that your fate lies in the hands of the Silver King. And I cannot wait to get my payment at some point right here on the Getting Over Wrestling podcast. It will be sooner than later. We'll figure out the right time. I promise you, we will make it happen. We do have a 750th episode coming up relatively soon.
Ooh. Yeah,
and
this is we're what 726 or 7 right
we're
now?
Past that at this point with all the instant analysis. I think we're 727, 728. But it's coming up sooner than later. So depending what guests we do or do not get, what we have planned special or perhaps not special for 750, maybe that's when it will come. But I promise sooner than later, right here on the Getting Over Wrestling podcast, Vintage Chris Vanini rapping a John Cena entrance theme. So if the match itself was not painful enough for you, if the idea of hearing Vintage rap is not painful enough for you, let me go ahead and flip it all on its head and move to something that was the opposite of the main event. And that was the opener of WWE WrestleMania 41, the Women's World Championship. Io Sky defending her title against Bianca Belair and Rhea Ripley. Ripley opened hour 2 of SmackDown saying this WrestleMania is the most important to her, given she lost the title right before the show. Rhea said she's not there to complain and moan and make excuses. That's all her character has done for the last 2 months. Ripley said she would walk out champion by any means necessary. Sky interrupted with Belair immediately behind her, and commentary selling how she's so overlooked and disrespected they won't even let her speak. She got vociferously booed, Bianca did, more than before. This ended with Naomi and Jade Cargill involved and everyone brawling except Io, who ended it with a moonsault into a pile outside. Not much actually happened here. I just found it to be a really fun segment because it added excitement to the match. Regarding the Belair booing, I completely chalk it up to her character trying to keep Ripley out of the match and fans not wanting that. I truly do not believe it's personal against Bianca, but I did hope that WWE would lean into this and use the opportunity to actually turn her heel or very heel side of tweener, because she hasn't had any semblance of an interesting character for the last few years. But given the Naomi and Jade storyline, they may be forced to kind of keep her in a different role. We're going to have to find out what they do.
Yeah, Bianca's been kind of leaning into it too. Not like being a heel, but being more forceful in the way she kind of goes about her business. And it's really interesting. It may be one of those things like, tweener both sides, but she'd be a great heel. We've always said it. Figure out the right way to do it, but it's interesting.
She was a great heel in NXT, and I would love to see that on the main roster. Now to WrestleMania. Belair was the only one with a truly special entrance. A bunch of girls, including her stepdaughter, dancing and jumping rope and swinging braids. She got cheered for that, but then booed again during match introductions. Some people said Ripley looked like Batman Who Laughs with her red lips. I don't even know what that means, but there you go. Fun match start with Io making first contact to actively prevent Belair and Ripley from excluding her. She also had a really nice double blockbuster early. The challengers teamed up to swing her into the barricade. Ripley murked Sky with a razor's edge into Belair. Bianca broke a prism trap by lifting Rhea into a kiss of death that was countered. They combined for a backdrop and full release German suplex off the ropes, with Io taking the brunt. Ripley booted Belair in the chest as a counter to a leapfrog. Sky had a springboard missile dropkick, sending the crowd into a frenzy, only for Bianca to pounce the shit out of her and then hit a perfect 450. Rhea immediately caught her with a riptide for a false finish. Io countered another one into a tornado DDT, so Rhea dragged her to the top rope for an avalanche riptide, but Io countered into a slam. Then she tried over the moonsault. She ate boots to the face. Bianca caught her with a KOD for a broken fall, so she screamed at and then smacked Rhea in the face like a heel. Ripley spit on her, but then on the ropes, Sky tried to poison Rana. Rhea flipped her forward into the ring post. Bianca grabbed Rhea for a KOD. Ripley landed on her feet when she flipped out of it. They had a hockey fight, just beat the shit out of each other. Belair countered Riptide and smacked the hell out of Rhea with her braid. Then Bianca hit KOD, with Io breaking the fall, landing over the moonsault, covering Bianca, and getting the 1-2-3 to retain the championship. I'm going to freely admit something right now. I got emotional watching this match. This was everything women's wrestling can be and should be in WWE and the rest of North America. The athleticism, the skill, the emotion, the in-ring storytelling, particularly with Belair and Ripley. Did it hurt that my girl won? Of course not. I found myself thinking, though, I'll be fine if Bianca wins this because this match is so great. But Io was the right winner at the right time to fully establish her as one of the best women's wrestlers in the world. She was already considered that, obviously, but this allowed the largest wrestling fan base in the world to fully acknowledge her as appropriate.
Acknowledge.
Big acknowledgement right there.
Acknowledge.
It was one of my New Year's resolutions for WWE to put Io on this kind of stage. We're less than a third of the way into the year, and they delivered. I got to give credit where it's due. This was one of the greatest women's matches in WWE history, possibly the greatest women's match, full stop, in WrestleMania history, possibly the best WrestleMania opener of all time, and among the best WrestleMania matches that I can remember. Not necessarily in terms of it being a moment, just straight bell to bell. It is so tough to rank one match against another. How do you compete or compare this? with the importance, story, and history of Sasha Banks and Bayley at NXT TakeOver Brooklyn? How do you compare this with the insanity that was Asuka, Becky Lynch, and Charlotte Flair in that TLC match? Sasha and Bianca at Mania, Rhea and Charlotte at Mania. Maybe this just sits in a category all its own as a match that featured 3 pillars of the women's division on the biggest stage possible, and they delivered better than anyone could have even expected, despite everyone knowing they are 3 immensely talented women wrestlers. The only critique I can even muster is that it went 15 minutes when it easily should have gotten 20. This will probably be the only time we ever see this specific triple threat, and it opened WrestleMania. To be fair, the pace they wrestled at was probably like 22 minutes of action inside of 15 minutes, bell to bell. It was exhilarating, and it set the stage for Rhea Bianca to main event next year. It was special. One of the most perfectly paced matches I can ever remember watching. Non-stop marathon of excitement. I cannot praise it enough. I am so happy for all 3 of them, but particularly for Io, given the way the crowd reacted to her. The biggest babyface pops of her entire WWE career, including NXT. This was flawless, bell to bell. Excellently laid out and produced, excellently wrestled. 5 stars, A+.
Yes. Best match of the show by far across either night.
Best match at WrestleMania. Totally agree.
Yes. And made you think back to the comment that CM Punk said that this should have been the night 1 main event.
Should have been the night 2 main event.
Yeah, no kidding. Absolutely living up to it.
Yeah.
You mentioned, I think Bianca Becky at 38, also in that
incredible
grouping
match
of best women's matches. I
Yes.
think that, it's definitely right in that conversation. The crowd was into it. Like, compare the crowd reactions in this to the Jay Gunther match. Like, you have to start off a show with a lot of energy and fast pace and all kinds of stuff like that. And like, Jay Gunther didn't do that. This did. This is how you open a show. This is how you close a show. And everything about it was great. Bianca's rose themed entire getup was awesome. All the rose petals, some of those were falling out of her hair early on in the match. But crowd was into this, and the finish was great. And ultimately, the number one goal, not number one, but like the main thing you wanted to accomplish with this match was that people wouldn't come out of it saying, well, I wish it was just Rhea Bianca.
Correct.
Because that's what I wanted going in. That's what a lot of people wanted going in. It's kind of the story they told going in. And you come out of that thinking, no, triple threat was the way to go. This is why. And Io's now a made woman, forever will be. It was pretty much perfect. It was unbelievable.
And again, to your point, you wanted everyone to believe Io was on par with both of them. But there were really 2 things that they wanted to accomplish. One was establishing Io as one of the 3 best women's wrestlers in the entire company, one of the best in the world, so on and so forth, putting her at that level permanently, which has now been accomplished. And 2, setting the stage for Ripley Belair at WrestleMania 42. It's ready. Like, maybe they do it at SummerSlam. I could see a potential way if one of them wins a title between now and then that they bubble it up for that. But I would separate them on brands. I would keep Rhea on Raw and Bianca on SmackDown, or through the draft, literally flip them, but they cannot be on the same brand. You give one of them a title going into WrestleMania next year. The other one either wins the Royal Rumble or Elimination Chamber, or hopefully they don't only make those matches the number 1 contenderships. It would be nice if someone just earned a number 1 contendership in another manner as opposed to Elimination Chamber. But that is I'm saying night 1 main event, but I legitimately believe it could be the main event of night 2, and every single person that's a WWE fan would completely buy that. But it's a main event match for next year, and this was the first drop in the bucket. And for it to be the first drop in the bucket, it was a waterfall, not a drop.
Yeah. Also, I couldn't even tell you what brands Bianca and Rhea are on right now.
Oh, we doing this again, man. Come on.
We're doing it again. You said put them on different brands. Are they currently on different brands?
Yes, and they have been for years.
Okay, well then you don't need to. Then you just keep them apart.
That's what they would keep them apart. I'm saying if the draft happens,
yeah,
also keep them apart. Don't merge
Yes.
them onto the same brand. That's all I'm trying to say. So I thought it was interesting Belair took the fall. She now has no more Mania streak, which is obviously fine. But again, interesting nonetheless. WWE said she already had a loss because she was in a battle royal, but that is ridiculous to count as a loss. I've never heard that before. But now she cannot say she's never been pinned at Mania either because Io pinned her. Again, fine, just notable. And really, as I said, coming out of SmackDown, she should be crashing out and turning heel. The setup is there. The fans are booing her, all of that. But while Bianca's streak is no longer important, this is important. Io was the first Japanese wrestler, billed as Japanese, to win at WrestleMania. She, Shinsuke Nakamura, Asuka, and Kairi Sane were 0-13 entering this show, which was obviously ridiculous because Asuka and Shin should have won a couple of those. Asuka should have beaten Charlotte Flair, and Shinsuke Nakamura should have beaten AJ Styles. I digress. Io was the MVP of this entire match, and she broke that terrible streak. Extremely, extremely proud of her. And just to wrap here, you mentioned, this was deserving of a WrestleMania main event. It absolutely was, just as we said it would be. However, given the angle with Paul Heyman and Seth Rollins, it simply could not have main evented night one over them. Roman Reigns and CM Punk being involved in that as well. This was basically a 3 main event WrestleMania, but it simply will not go down that way in the history books. And it shouldn't, given this did not close the show. But it was of that level and caliber, and it continued a string of extremely sick triple threat matches that we got this weekend. First, Obafemi, Trick Williams, and Javon Evans. Then, of course, Roman Reigns, CM Punk, and Seth Rollins. And then finishing it up, Io Sky, Rhea Ripley, and Bianca Belair. All 3 of them were incredible. All 3 of them in the A+ range for match grades. Wow. That's how I'm going to end it. Wow. So let's move to Damian Priest against Drew McIntyre in a Sin City street fight. Priest attacked McIntyre for a pull-apart brawl on the WrestleMania kickoff after McIntyre basically dominated him on the mic. He was immense. The crowd in Las Vegas was 100% all in for Drew. It was great to see. On SmackDown, Priest promised violence, saying he'll beat McIntyre so bad he'll wish he gets future endeavored again, that he would bring the punishment and bury Drew. What McIntyre did during the kickoff was actually great. It was insanely entertaining. Awesome to see the crowd get behind him. Priest promo at night wasn't bad. I'd say more it was just unnecessary. They had already done enough, and they really just didn't need to be on SmackDown at all. Now, for WrestleMania, both men got special entrances. Drew was dressed like a Doom character, at least in that aesthetic, because they sponsored the match. Priest came to the ring with a live performance from a Slayer guitarist. It sounded like someone farting on metal. Ringside brawl to start with steel steps. McIntyre grabbed a phone from his brother, took a selfie with Priest knocked down. Then he did a full flip tope con hero, which was absurd. Priest threw a chair at his head to counter Claymore. It only glanced off of him, so Drew just reloaded and immediately hit one for a false finish. McIntyre tried a Claymore with a chair wrapped around Priest's neck, but he caught him for a chokeslam. Priest took McIntyre off the ropes with a huge razor's edge into a table. Great false finish. McIntyre came back with a future shock DDT on steel steps in the ring before the guys exchanged chops and haymakers. McIntyre stopped Old School by pushing Priest off the ropes backwards into 2 tables that had been set up ringside. Insane spot, crazy pop. Drew then draped him over the middle rope with his head against a chair in the corner, hitting a Claymore for the 1-2-3 for the squeaky clean, semi-dominant win. And there was a great call by Wade Barrett saying Priest got sent to hell. McIntyre forced the referee to raise his arm while standing on the steel steps. This was outstanding. We came in saying, despite no one wanting this match, McIntyre and Priest busted their asses to deliver among the strongest WrestleMania builds, and they positioned themselves to put on a tremendous street fight. And they delivered. And then some. No misses in this match whatsoever. One huge spot after another, a total car crash. McIntyre looked dominant throughout, even while selling pretty well for Priest. Calling back to the selfie spot was immense. The tweet did crazy numbers. We shared it. The finish was exceptional, with it taking a ton to beat Priest, keeping him strong, allowing McIntyre to flex as the true main eventer between the two. The spot into the tables was awesome. Honestly, the Claymore with the chair was even sicker, especially because he tried to do it with it wrapped around his neck. He realized that wasn't going to work. So he had to put him in a position where he could do it and he wouldn't be able to move. And he was able to achieve that. I wish I had more to say in praise of it, but it was just immensely straightforward, and it was exactly what it needed to be. McIntyre and Priest, they were equally great. That's a huge credit to both of them, especially Damian. This was second on the card, and when it ended, Chris, I was floored that they were somehow able to follow the women's triple threat and keep the energy as high as they did. This was just fantastic.
Speaking of trouble following things, you pretty much said everything. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I was even going to point out following the women, and then you got that in at the end. So I don't even know what to add. I gave this 4 stars, maybe 4.27, 4.25. Really good. Literally the only main down point was Drew coming out in a Doom video game costume for a blood feud street fight. Just like he looked goofy, just like the War Raiders did coming out with the Clash of Clans, just like the AEW wrestlers who come out wearing video game stuff just because they're fans of video game stuff. It never looks well.
No,
I know it's a sponsorship. Put that on Priest. Why couldn't you just put it on Priest? I guess because he had the Slayer guy.
Well,
I don't know.
McIntyre's the warrior guy. That's why.
Yeah, but the things he said about the sword and all that, and then he comes out with this. So, but this was awesome match. Great spots. The tightrope, push him off into the tables for a big dude like Priest. That's a crazy spot. So credit to him as well. These guys were great, and 2 matches into the show, you're like, dang, where was this?
Yeah,
on Saturday. Both these matches were arguably better than anything on night 1. Obviously, night 1 had the more exciting
Not
finish,
the main event. The main event was better.
But the
than
match quality for these 2 first matches was unbelievable. Great stuff.
At the time this ended, the 3 best matches at WrestleMania were the last 3 matches we had seen. The main event of night 1 and the first 2 matches of night 2. There's zero question about that. I forgot to give a grade myself. I may be higher than most. I understand that. But I just thought this was legitimately perfect. I went 4.5 stars and an A. On rewatch, I might go down a quarter star to where you are, 4.25. But, I mean, it was an A match. As simple as that. It was a street fight. It delivered exactly what they promised. Could it have used blood? Sure. I thought it didn't because we were going to get it in the main event, and we didn't. That was a little bit of a surprise. Yeah. And it was WrestleMania, so that's probably the reason why we didn't get it. But it didn't need it. WWE street fights don't need blood. But, if it was a little bit more brutal, maybe it could have gotten higher. But, I mean, it was awesome. Drew on Sunday, just to put this in context, he won 3 Slammy Awards. He went viral on social media. He had one of the best finishers of his career, and he got a win at WrestleMania. It is now time to give this dude a proper world championship reign, maybe even as a babyface at some point down the line. I could see it happening in 2025, but given the storylines that we got coming out of WrestleMania, if they have to push it to 2026, okay. He needs to hold his strap by SummerSlam 2026. What do you think?
Yeah, it's not going to happen, but he'd make sense to take it off of Jey Uso, but you've got Seth Rollins.
I know, but man, it would be perfect for Drew to beat Jey. Like, if not Seth, it would be. All right, let's move to the Intercontinental Championship. Braun Breaker, Penta, Finn Balor, and Dominic Mysterio. Breaker, of course, entering as champion. On the WrestleMania kickoff, Breaker got the opportunity to do his version of Steiner math. Breaker math, I'd give it an 8.5 out of 10. He stayed true to the gimmick, but it wasn't as silly or accurate as what Scott Steiner did, but it was still immensely fun. If we had more time, I would play it in full. Did you get a chance to see that, though?
Yes, and the way Braun says, and he knows, was exactly like Scott Steiner.
Yeah.
Also, the way he says percent is the exact same. It's his uncle, but you could totally see it.
Yeah, it's unbelievable, man. So this was third on the card with Dominic wearing one of his father's masks that he struggled to get off. Balor wore yellow gloves and a yellow bag over his head like he was cleaning a kitchen in a pandemic or something. Penta hit a huge tope con hero with Breaker flying over the Judgment Day bodies for a huge tackle immediately after it. Then he caught Penta's springboarding for a World's Strongest Slam, hit his old press power slam finisher on Finn, and then a spear on Dominic for a broken fall. Penta hit Balor with Sacrifice, but Breaker stopped Penta driver with a double German suplex. Dom got cheers and boos as Carlito arrived. Braun hit a double vertical suplex on Judgment Day, plus Steiner on Balor. With everyone down, Dom drop-kicked Finn in the back, but Balor prevented a 619 and started beating on him justifiably because he was the one who attacked him first. Penta stopped it with a Penta driver for a broken fall. Mysterio got dirty Dom chance, just like McIntyre did earlier. Penta murked him with a Mexican Destroyer. Carlito broke that fall. Breaker then ran off one announce table to spear Carlito through the other. Braun speared Penta, but ate a 619. Balor prevented a frog splash from Dom. He hit Sling Blade, shotgun dropkick, and coup de grace. And then Dom broke the fall with a frog splash, Chris, covering Finn for the 1-2-3 to become the new Intercontinental Champion. Massive, massive ovation. Dom ran away at first, but he actually ran back to the ring to celebrate because people were cheering him. Just as we suspected on the Ultimate Preview, this was a show-stealing match, except it came immediately after two other show-stealing matches for what may have been, and I'm being serious, the hottest start to a night of WrestleMania that I can remember. All four guys came out of this looking amazing. I laughed to myself about Dom pinning Finn because you gave me grief about taking Mysterio instead of Balor, given he's my boy on the Ultimate Preview. But there was no world in which Balor did not take the fall in this match, and using the four-way as an opportunity to strap up Dom without Braun getting pinned, keeping Penta free to likely team with his brother sooner than later, and also kicking off this Dom and Finn feud that has clearly been brewing. It made all the sense in the world. It was insane that Braun, the neophyte, was the MVP of this match. The other guys completely made him here. The dude looked like an absolute monster. And yet, Dom more than held his own. He was completely over with the crowd, even got "you deserve it" chants after the bell. I loved that for him. He legitimately did deserve it. Eddie's got to be proud looking down. I also loved how he ran back into the ring to celebrate the title win. That was little Dom, not Dominic, the little kid inside. Good for him, man. Penta and Balor, they played their roles perfectly. Seeing Penta fit into WWE wrestling this easily, it just proves his immense talent. It's just not the same style he used to work, both in AEW and certainly in Mexico. This, in every way, was a straight-up banger from bell to bell, the third straight one on the show. I did not think I was going to be this high, but it was 4.25 stars and an A. 3 matches at this level or higher to open WrestleMania Night 2 was absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, I gave this 4 stars as well. Really great match. Everybody looked good. Everybody got their stuff in. They added those reinforced tables and nobody broke them. And then we got 3 broken in 2 nights. And this one, going from one table to the other was crazy. Great spot there for Braun. Carlito does a good job taking the spear, and he just kind of comes out there to take the hits and stuff like that. He does a good job of that. It was interesting. Again, to be clear here, this is a 4-star match. I loved it, but you've already said all of the good things. So
no, you can criticize it. There's critiques. No, there's critiques that are fair, of course.
It was interesting that this finish was basically the same as the women's match, where you have some kind of splash onto somebody for the pin. Both of them were great, and they were hot finishes, and I loved them. But it was just like, oh, we just saw that. That was kind of surprising. Kind of just surprised that happened. The entrances, Def Rebel, man, everybody's song sounds the same. Like, you couldn't tell whose was what, other than Braun has the sirens at the beginning of his.
Braun and Penta sounded the same, and then Finn and Dom sounded the same.
Yeah. Finn comes out with Dominic comes out with a mask, takes off the mask. Then Finn comes out with something on and takes it off his head back to back. I was like, that was kind of weird. Like, why can't Finn just go back to his old music? Like, this whole thing, like, I forgot, someone said on Twitter, like, they've spent 7 years just taking all the aura away from Finn Balor. Like, dude's incredible. We know you love him. I love him. And it's just like, he's been so unmemorable for so long.
They've turned him into the modern Dolph Ziggler, is what they've done.
Yeah, like, he's got to, like, go back to doing Finn Balor, man. And even if you're the heel, just, like, bring it back. Do the cool entrance with the arms up and the lights. Like, he had a thing.
Yeah.
He doesn't have anything anymore.
I'll tell you.
Maybe this will be it. Maybe this is the end of Judgment Day, and something like that can happen. But man, he's got a Mania match. He gets his own entrance, and it was like he's coming out with rubber gloves. It looked like it was weird.
I thought that they were going to strap up Dom, and he would be the heel, and by playing against him, Balor would go babyface, and he'd be able to win the Intercontinental title and get a really big pop. And then maybe that would bring him up to the upper mid card again. And, he's never going to win a world title in WWE. We know this. The dream is dead. But he can compete for one. And he can still be in those caliber matches. We saw it with Roman Reigns just a couple years ago. And my hope was that would get him back to that level. But Dominic getting cheered, even though that was a smarky Las Vegas crowd, and if that happened somewhere else, it perhaps would not have gotten the same response. He has been getting a lot more positive responses recently from crowds where they have not been sending him out there to get booed like they used to.
Also, he's not being a heel
He's
anymore.
not.
He really hasn't been. It's Liv who's been being the heel. He has
but
been
even
trying
Liv,
he's been trying to find new friends and bring people into the Judgment Day and be nice to them.
Yeah,
so
but,
I don't think that's a coincidence either. Like this may have been the whole time.
It may be
a soft face turn. And the other part of it is anytime you're a good heel for long enough, people just start cheering you because they respect you. It's what happened with Roman Reigns. It's why everybody needs to turn heel at some point because that gives you the more respect. And Dom's got the respect now. He's a good wrestler. We kind of forget it because the Dirty Dom character.
He has done a 180 in terms of his. I mean, look, that's what happens when you wrestle on the main roster for 5 years and you start as a younger kid and you work against literally some of the best wrestlers in the entire world. And you do house shows and you do all this extra work and you learn how to do promos. He's a different guy. Triple H. You know what? Dominic Mysterio is Triple H's greatest developmental product.
Yeah, because remember, he pops up during the pandemic because I think they needed bodies.
They did. Fresh-faced kid. Ray wanted him on the road with him if he was going to do it. And you're just like, And
you were thinking like, man, he needs to go down to NXT for a bit.
Yeah.
And he just figured it out. I think 2023, I think he had the most matches in WWE, he said. So just those reps, man, with some of the best. He's good.
He's good. And to the point.
And then you add the character on top of everything the last couple of years. Like he figured this whole thing out.
Yeah, he's knocked that out of the park. And Liv Morgan has helped him immensely, and Rhea Ripley helped him as well. But he and Liv, he's taken off with Liv. That's just the truth. He and Liv both against one another and for one another completely took off when they merged. You pointed out the finishes being pretty much identical. Longtime listener Jason Jeter at J Jeter Leo, he asked if we had a problem with that. I didn't even recognize it live, and I just believe it's because I liked everything so much that I just didn't compartmentalize in my head like, oh wait, was that just the same as what happened earlier? So realizing it now, it certainly was not ideal. I mean, they even used the same corner. But I think the story was different enough in that Balor was preventing Mysterio and then Mysterio screwed Balor, whereas in the other situation, it was just the other women were doing moves and then Io flew in and stole the win. So it was a little bit different in terms of concept, and a lot of triple threats and fatal four ways end in a fashion such as that. But yes, to do that 2 times in 3 matches on the same show and have them both be high risk the way those ended, definitely not ideal. I don't think it was egregious where it ruined the match or anything like that.
No, I have no problem with it. The only people who would even notice are smarky fans like us or booking agents. Like, it doesn't matter. They were both executed well. It's just something we notice as we evaluate the details of a show.
For sure. Let's move to the Women's Tag Team Championship. Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez defending against what was planned to be Lyra Valkyria and Bayley. Now, we discussed this last night, so if you really want to do a 30-second skip, you can. But WWE ran a storyline during the night 1 countdown that showed Bayley having been attacked and laid out backstage. Liv and Raquel obviously denied accountability despite being blamed. They just wanted the match thrown out. Lyra wanted to fight them 1-on-2. Adam Pearce basically said, you have until Sunday to find a partner or else you're not going to get the title opportunity. To reiterate, this was a confounding booking decision. First, it eliminated Bayley from WrestleMania, which she absolutely deserved to be on. She won the Royal Rumble and the title last year. Second, WWE did a legitimately fantastic job developing Lyra and Bayley into deserving tag team title challengers in basically 1 week. They got completely over with the fans to a shocking degree through that SmackDown Gauntlet match. And now they just don't capitalize on it. Like, what was the point of that storyline? Our expectation going into WrestleMania, we mentioned this yesterday, was that Becky Lynch would make a surprise return to team with her countrywoman. And we said that would be a massive WrestleMania moment, but there were so many other ways to do this without sacrificing WrestleMania weekend work for Bayley and Roxanne Perez. So this just did not sit well with me. And this is coming from someone who believes Becky is the literal GOAT of the women's division.
Yeah, no, I don't get it. I unless something happened to Bayley, and Triple H addressed it after the show. We'll get to that, but
nothing happened to her. She's totally fine.
The last couple of weeks building this match meant literally nothing.
Yeah.
Like they put together Bayley and Lyra as a team and had them beat all the other tag teams to get here.
And they didn't get the fight for the titles.
Didn't do it.
Yeah.
Like what the heck?
Yeah.
I do not believe that was the plan from the beginning.
It's really interesting. So Liv entering for this match.
Gonna look good, but she's got me saying, hey now!
Lyra got the Bird Lady woo chants, which was awesome to hear, particularly because they were loud in a stadium. And yes, as expected, Becky Lynch returned to WWE for the first time in 329 days. Obviously an amazing pop for her. Liv tried to prevent Bex from entering, so the pop on the hot tag was huge when she got hands on her. Lynch hit a seated senton on Raquel, a Bex exploder on Liv. Becky did an armbar into a broken disarm her. Liv caught her for Oblivion for a broken fall. Lyra followed with a tornado DDT of Raquel ringside. Lynch then caught Morgan with manhandle slam in the middle of the ring to win the tag team titles. Valkyria sold this incredibly well, just utter shock, surprise that she is now a double champion. Once Becky made her return, there was no finish other than the faces winning the titles, unless Bayley would have run down and attacked her or something like that. Not only because Bex is Bex, but because she was facing Liv, attempting to get revenge on her for stealing the Women's World Championship. All of that said, I remain completely confused by the booking. I absolutely love that Lyra is a double champion because she's an incredible wrestler. She's the future of the division. But at the same time, why are we doubling up a champion?
A champion who has barely ever been able to defend her belt and has barely been on television
her initial belt
since winning the belt.
Yeah,
now she's got two.
The Intercontinental Championship, exactly.
It's going to make it even harder to defend the IC if she's got to do the tag team stuff too.
Exactly. And as I stated both Saturday and a few minutes ago, why would you do all of this when Bayley and Roxanne basically got left on the cutting room floor as a consequence? The match was, at this point, the worst, quote unquote, of the night, just from the standpoint that it was all about Lynch's return. And you could tell she had some ring rust, but she physically looked great, like way healthier than when she left. And I was at a B for this. I'm not sure if it's 3.5, 3.25. I'm going to hold out further criticism on the storyline until we see where the booking goes, on Raw and then going forward after that. But it is unfortunate that Liv and Raquel lost the titles when they were doing a great job as champions.
Like the joke is that she's Becky Hogan.
I see people saying that every single time.
It's because it's happened twice.
Yeah, but every single time she's won a title in a situation like this, they said that when she won the Women's World Championship, the only reason she won the Women's World Championship was so she could put over Liv Morgan. That's not Becky Hogan. Hogan would win the title and never give it to anyone because he just wanted to be champion. That's not what Charlotte Flair would do. Charlotte would win the title, hold it for 6 months, and then, she'd eventually drop it through a Money in the Bank cash-in. Becky goes out and puts people over. So I hate when I see Becky Hogan. It is a complete distortion of what Lynch does for other women in this division. It is just because she's made champion doesn't mean that it is because she is demanding to have the title, which is what Hulk Hogan did.
No, it's not. It's not Becky Hogan in that sense. If anything, that's more Charlotte.
Exactly.
It's Becky Hogan because of WrestleMania 9, when Hulk Hogan in Las Vegas, when Hulk Hogan, Bret Hart's there. He loses. Hulk Hogan, you go in and take the belt. And so, Becky makes that return against Bianca.
It's not directly
all those
equivalent
years
to that,
ago, and beats her in like 10 seconds.
Yes.
And just we knew eventually it was going to come around to Bianca winning, which did happen. That was the plan.
Mm-hmm.
But at the moment, it was like, what the heck? And then you have this where you just pull Bayley out the night before, throw Becky, and Becky goes in and wins the championship, and you're like, what? That's the thing that feels like WrestleMania 9,
mm-hmm.
which I think is fair.
Yeah.
Although to your point, yes, she puts people over all the time. She was down in NXT doing that.
Yeah, I mean, she put over an entire Raw women's division. She got women on TV and wrestled them because she got. I was going to say Tatum Paxley, but she got Tegan Nox on television and gave her a full match, 2 of them, I think, because she felt that she was getting underused. She went down to NXT and bolstered the entire division, made Tiffany Stratton, made Lyra Valkyria. This is not a selfish wrestler. And do I love her? Is she like my favorite women's wrestler along with Io Sky? She is. And I think she's legitimately the greatest of all time. But and maybe I'm being extra defensive to that end, but it is not her coming in and saying, give me the championship so I can be on top of the division. That's what Hulk Hogan did.
Correct.
That is not what Becky Lynch is doing. Let's just be very effing clear about that.
As for everything else, good match. I actually don't think it was the worst to that point because of what happened before that, which we'll get to.
Oh, right. Okay.
But so first off, early on, we had Bianca with all the roses that were falling out and getting in the ring.
Yeah.
This one had Lyra's feathers falling out and getting in the ring.
I kind of liked it. It was like a video game.
Yeah, no. It was noticeable.
It wasn't purposeful, but I just liked it though. I don't know why.
She looked great, by the way. I thought it was a really cool outfit. Great entrance. She did. Deserves to be a 2-time champ. We love her.
They are making this woman into a star. It is a concerted effort, and I love that.
Yes. Over the last
3 weeks.
3 weeks. Before that, we barely seen her, even though she was.
Well, they did a terrible job with her and Braun Breaker just not putting them on television as Intercontinental Champion.
Because there's a lot of belts right now.
Yeah.
So it is what it is. Also, we'll talk more at the end of this episode probably about it, but when Becky makes a return, the call from commentary is just Pat McAfee saying, how do you feel now, Wade? And then that's it.
Can we?
And then not until she gets to the end does Cole say something
I
else.
don't at all mind you bringing it up because it is a topic that we need to discuss, but I think we should save the Pat McAfee conversation for the second look episode on Tuesday.
Okay.
Because I think it's a whole conversation that needs to be had. And I think we're probably on the same page. The long and short of it being, he has gotten exponentially worse on commentary.
He has.
Yeah.
Well, we'll get into it more. I'm someone who generally liked him on commentary. I like him on College Game Day. It's not going in a good direction.
He's jumping the shark is the truth. He just is.
It's too much. It's too much. And he sounds like he's acting.
Totally.
He's losing it a little bit.
Totally. And to what you mentioned earlier, Triple H went out of his way to mention Bayley on the post show, despite her, of course, not being part of WrestleMania. He said, quote, "Don't worry, guys. Bayley will be just fine." He had a big smile on his face. He said, true pro, true pro. So clearly, I mean, we knew it's a storyline that they're doing, but clearly he has something up his sleeve, or at least he's indicating he does. That is going to be significantly positive for Bayley. And the presumption is a Becky and Bayley feud. And maybe they feud over the Intercontinental title even. Maybe Becky takes it from Lyra and then Bayley takes it from Becky, something like that. But again, that title needs to get elevated. I love Lyra. She's a great champion. But when you get some of the main eventers involved in those mid-card titles, that's when they really become important.
The thing is, though, who attacked Bayley? I mean, was it Naomi again?
Well, that's the thing. It may have been Becky. And then if that is the case, then is that not exactly what the other women did, the big three? Is that not repetitive as a storyline? So we're going to have to see. We're going to have to find out. It's tough to say right now. I do wonder, though, what's ahead for Becky. She had that back in business jacket that she wore. Business on there. Best for business. That's what her husband said a week ago. Might she actually go heel and maybe even align with them? The 2-man power couple trip? Something like that?
They sort of, remember, they teamed up once before and people hated it and they were faces at the time.
They hated it because, first of all, it was Vince McMahon booking and they were going against Baron Corbin and Lacey Evans. And yet, that match was a banger.
It was.
And Baron Corbin hit, I think it was the Deep Six or End of Days on Becky. I forget which one it was. It was awesome.
Couples in wrestling, it's a heel thing. It's not a face thing.
No, that's true. And regarding Lyra, but they would be heels in this case.
Exactly.
Regarding Lyra, hell of a year for this woman. First ever Intercontinental Champion, wins a title in her WrestleMania debut, does it with her literal idol as her partner. And then that person, Becky, puts her over in the press conference as the future of women's wrestling. Lyra deserves it all because she is legitimately great. But dude, talk about dreams becoming reality. That is crazy. So congratulations to her. Let's talk about this.
Real quick, the star of that press conference, by the way, was Rue, Becky and Seth's daughter, who was at the press conference.
She was awesome.
Unbelievably cute.
Insanely cute. And not a surprise that she has her mother's attitude right off the bat. It was very, very funny. Let's talk about the Randy Orton Open Challenge. Orton cut a passionate promo on SmackDown about longevity and legacy being important to him. He promised he would show up Sunday in full gear with just the right amount of baby oil on his body so he can deliver for the fans and all the boys in the back. He challenged anyone backstage, anyone on the Las Vegas Strip, or anyone with a pair of wrestling boots in Nevada. I loved the energy and the fire that Orton showed. Obviously, we thought the Kevin Owens feud was among the best built for the entire WrestleMania card, but having a surprise element in place is always intriguing. And the fact that one would assume it would not be Solo Sikoa after SmackDown, they didn't continue that for a second week, that was immensely positive. I also noted this week that Jeff Hardy was the guest of honor at Wale Mania, so I thought it was at least possible that my initial fantasy booking would come true. And then, Chris, Friday night when SmackDown went off the air, we taped for free, I hope you all listened to it, the fastest 15 minutes in professional wrestling, a special go-home show that we posted. And you can confirm this. Another idea that came to me while watching SmackDown that would get a pop similar to Jeff Hardy was Joe Hendry. We talked about how he was at WWE World signing autographs, how that would be a really good and interesting way to put a non-WWE wrestler in a match at WrestleMania. And if they were ever going to do it, it would have to be him. That was my thought. So this was fourth on the show. Orton got an entire video package, and he came out wearing throwback Navy gear. The crowd loudly sang his song. He cut a quick promo promising a WrestleMania moment to whomever answered his open challenge. Well, Silver King said his name and he appeared because Joe Hendry comes out and the crowd lost its damn mind. You're welcome, Joe. Silver King said your name, and as Tony Kornheiser says, I believe I had that. Orton sold it.
Hold on. Before that, I said Joe Hendry's name first because when we recorded our show on Saturday, one of the last things we had on the show, because I was watching McAfee at the time, and in the back of the background at WWE World, they had the stage where fans could do entrances, and someone did Joe Hendry's entrance. And I made a comment. I was like, that's weird. A TNA wrestler's entrance is available at WWE World. And you had mentioned that Joe Hendry was in town signing autographs at WWE
You did
World
say his name first.
So,
that is true. You did say you did utter his name
so we
first.
did both talk about it. We did both say him. So
we did. So Joe owes, I think, the Getting Over Wrestling podcast a conversation. We said his name. He appeared, right? That's how it works.
The pop was crazy.
It was awesome.
Huge.
It was great. The dude literally memed his way into WrestleMania.
Yeah.
I love that for him. It's unbelievable. So Orton no-sold his choke slam attempt, which I love because I always think that's a really dumb move. When Hendry did his turnaround celebration midway through the match, I guess, Orton caught him out of nowhere with the RKO, got the win. Then he raised Hendry's hand to each side of the ring. He got pops. And then, of course, he hit a second RKO for another amazing spot. And then, for good measure, he did Hendry's own turnaround move, but instead of the smile, he just did his signature pose to end it. Chris, this was perfection achieved. 5-star WrestleMania segment. I screamed when Hendry entered. I laughed out loud at both RKOs. The goal of wrestling is to evoke emotion, and this drew emotion out of me with ease. It was straight up hilarious, and the way this was formatted was just genius. From the surprise of Hendry to the way Orton sold for him, to the way the RKO was executed, integrating his celebration, and then doing the post-match, it was perfect. Pat McAfee made his best point on the entirety of WrestleMania, in that Orton really should get a TNA championship match now after this. We know that's not going to happen. Obviously, he's Randy Orton, so no real harm for TNA or its title, given he beat Hendry, who's largely a comedy wrestler, but it was a salient point nonetheless. For Hendry, this was the greatest moment of his career. For anyone wishing he got more, he absolutely should not have gotten a single second more against a first ballot WWE Hall of Famer. No way, no how. This was perfect. Excellently executed. I doubt Bret Hart would approve, but the Silver King approved.
Yeah, given the tough turnaround, it's everything it needed to be. And also, Kevin Owens also tweeted out the picture of the KO Mania shirt that they were going to make for the show with him and Randy Orton. So, too bad that couldn't happen. But this was everything it needed to be. A quick thing. Joe Hendry got some stuff in. Remember, he got the same in the Rumble as well.
Yeah.
He did get a couple of shots in. He does that really good fall away slam. It's not like he's out there looking like a complete goober. He's just overmatched.
If memory serves, the two people that have quote unquote defeated him are Roman Reigns and Randy Orton.
Yes.
You know
that's who it was.
Yeah.
And so, like, I saw people being like, "Ugh, what is TNA getting out of this?" Blah blah blah. Look,
everything.
They're not. They don't promote Joe Hendry as the greatest wrestler in the world. This isn't Samoa Joe or AJ Styles coming in and doing this. Like, I wouldn't
Correct.
necessarily he's a comedy wrestler, but he's a gimmick wrestler. And that's okay.
That's a better
Sometimes
term.
Those guys,
Yeah.
yeah, sometimes those guys are champions. Like, they're entertaining. Like, that's the point. And some people are like, oh, just because of an entrance, it's all why he got there. Some people say Jey Uso only got there because of his catchphrase. Like, that's a big part of pro wrestling. It's entertainment. It's not real. You know, the point is you're supposed to entertain the crowd, and then they get behind you and want you to win. That's what happened with Joe Hendry. His NXT appearance, I'm pretty sure, was the most viewed WWE tweet of all time.
I don't know.
All you have to know is the pop that he got for this spot told you why he deserved to be there.
Absolutely.
Fans were excited to see him. And it was cool to see Randy Orton like kind of bobbing his head to the music when he came out as well. And also, at the moment of all the WWE stuff uploaded to YouTube from night 2, most views, Cody Rhodes versus John Cena, about 9 minutes of
Understandable.
match.
Yeah.
Number 2, Randy Orton versus Joe Hendry.
Yeah.
Like, that's a big deal.
Although, don't forget, it is Randy Orton on there as well. But yes.
It is.
Yeah.
But
still, it's Randy Orton and Joe Hendry.
Even just Joe Hendry's entrance is like the 4th or 5th most viewed thing. It's not that far behind. So that stuff matters, man. He has worked his butt off, Joe Hendry, to get to this spot. And he deserves it. He's had a heck of a year. And I don't know what's going to happen next with him. Triple H in the press conference said he'll be back at a WrestleMania at some point, and this was the easiest one he will have ever had to do.
Yeah.
But this was nails.
It feels like he's on the Jordan Grace track where like he's making appearances and then they're going to sign him once his TNA contract comes up or something like that.
Also, someone made the point, I forgot who it was, but the fact that his entrance song is what got him over while WWE is in the midst of its worst entrance song period ever goes to show you how important entrance music is. This stuff matters.
Singing Cody's theme, singing Orton's theme, singing CM Punk's, both of his themes, both the Fire Burns and Cult of Personality. Now, granted, those are real songs, so it's a little bit different, but it's noticeable every single time. Lyra Valkyria, they have something to latch on to, the woos. They cheer for her. It's unbelievable how bad the music is.
Entrance themes matter. And that's why it's surprised WWE's been putting out such garbage. And if Joe Hendry ever makes it to WWE,
the company is sports entertainment, and it prioritizes presentation, and it has the worst entrance music. It's unbelievable.
Yeah,
it just is. Let's move to the final match that we're going to discuss here: AJ Styles against Logan Paul. There was an over-dramatic video package for this match. I just straight up missed. I was still buzzing over Orton and Hendry.
It was good.
It seemed really good, but like it seemed over-dramatic as well. Am I correct?
It was, but it actually made me interested in the match, considering there was zero story between these two, pretty much.
Right, like
the package was like, all right, I'm like kind of into this now.
All the build for this match,
WWE's video team is so good.
All the build for this match came from that video package and Karrion Kross. I mean, it's just the truth. So Logan entered like carrying a drone or something, and then production cut to it a few times during the match. I thought it was odd and stupid to do it during the match, but the entrance did look pretty damn cool. Styles caught Paul leaping over the ropes inside the apron, beat him down like Fit Finley. Really great call by Wade on commentary referring to that. AJ got twice run into the post, shoulder first. Logan hit a pretty awful frog splash, Chris, apparently called Paul from Grace, which particularly sucks because Obafemi's finisher is Fall from Grace. I digress. Logan hit an overbomb, shout out to Shane Helms, and praised himself while briefly dominating AJ. Styles came back forcefully with 2 brainbusters. Paul took him off the top rope for a rolling senton and a lion salt. Impressively, he hit the lion salt 3/4 of the way into the ring. It was ridiculous. Credit to him. Logan prevented Styles' clash by grabbing the ropes. He had a buckshot lariat. AJ came back with an inverted fireman's carry spinning Liger bomb. Probably has a name. I don't know what it is. Paul got knees up to block a springboard 450. And then he hit a Styles clash on AJ, but Styles rolled through it and then delivered a Styles clash right back at him. Logan's friend again tried to throw brass knuckles into the ring, but Karrion Kross showed up, stole the knucks from him. Styles tossed this dude, and then Kross put the knucks on the canvas, basically begging him to use them. He even called him Allen. Styles took them. He threw them under the ring. He punched Kross across the face. Logan avoided a phenomenal forearm, hit a haymaker, and then he added Pulverizer and beat AJ Styles at WrestleMania. Two things can be true. The wrestling in this match was not bad at all. There were some pretty damn good sequences. The booking decision in this match was moronic. Yes, Cross distracted, and he took Styles out of his game. The end result was still a first ballot Hall of Famer, a multi-time heavyweight champion, former Bullet Club leader, IWGP World Heavyweight Champion, losing to a YouTuber on the biggest event of the year and what may be the penultimate WrestleMania match of his career. Now, look, credit to Styles for being willing to put Paul over. They worked extremely well together. They had fun bell-to-bell stuff. I'm at a B, 3.25 stars, 3.5 stars. Everything else about this was maddening, starting with commentary. All three guys, not just McAfee, but Wade Barrett too, a little bit less, but Michael Cole especially, they spent the entire match filleting Logan with every available second. This guy is a heel. He's a shitty heel. We hate him both in kayfabe and reality. Why are you slurping him for 15 straight minutes? The camera work, using basically the same finish as we always get with the same douchebag with the weapon, rough stuff. What WWE is simply refusing to admit is that the fans protested this match as much as they could. They obviously popped for big moves and spots, but the boos that they got here were go away heat the entire time, from when Logan came out until when he won the match. WWE fans do not want this guy on their screens. Cross, who doesn't wrestle, who every segment of his is on social media, got a bigger and better reaction than Logan Paul did. That was the only bright spot, Cross getting a pop at WrestleMania. It was just disappointing for WrestleMania to be running so insanely hot and then have this happen right in the middle to bring it all down. And it's ridiculous to me that AJ Styles' best WrestleMania match is against Shane McMahon in 2025. That is still the truth.
It's weird because I literally wrote it down. I was like, AJ hasn't really had like an amazing WrestleMania match somehow. So who has he fought in WrestleMania all time? Chris Jericho, Shane McMahon, Shinsuke Nakamura, Randy Orton, Undertaker in the Boneyard match, which was cinematic.
And that was great. It just wasn't a regular match.
It was.
Yeah.
Yes. The New Day in a tag team with Omos, Edge, and LA Knight, and now Logan Paul.
Mm-hmm.
And in terms of just normal wrestling matches, the best of those were Shane McMahon and LA Knight, believe it or not. Somehow. The rest, even the Nakamura match, which was a title match, forgettable, ends with a low blow.
They're all forgettable except for Nakamura because of the way it ended and the Boneyard match.
Yeah. Which is crazy. Which is wild because AJ is one of the best to ever do it.
Mm-hmm.
Him and John Cena put out 5-star classics. For whatever reason, it just hasn't come together at WrestleMania. And this match was fine, the wrestling itself. AJ did his best. Logan can do some things. We've said that. The Lion Salt was very impressive.
Mm-hmm.
What's weird, though, is that Logan Paul's pretty much got the wrestling down. It's the other stuff he no longer has.
He doesn't even have the wrestling down, though. He's able to do moves because he's athletic, but he doesn't string them together.
He's able to do enough. And I think they've said he kind of scripts out the whole matches and whatever. Again, he's only wrestled 15, 20 matches. But he's able to do enough that it's passable. The problem is he's a one-note character.
Mm-hmm.
And he's been doing it for years, and we're bored of it. You mentioned the boos. The biggest problem with all this is that when he won, there was no reaction from the crowd.
It was like silence,
because it's the same finish we've seen 5 other times.
Mm-hmm.
Something to do with the brass knucks, which I don't even know why he needs brass knucks when he has a titanium.
Right, they say he has a loaded fist. So, isn't that enough? Yeah.
Yeah, which I've never quite understood. He does the same promo, the same character, the same finishes to the matches. I think he's really talented, and I've said I think he's going to be a world champion.
He's not.
I no longer think that only because he's plateaued.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're going to put him in a WrestleMania match, you got to give him a story, man. There was nothing here. And so he had no promo. He just had promos that were like, I'm rich, I'm amazing, you guys hate me. People get bored of that. And we're bored of him now. And that's the most frustrating part, because I can see why WWE puts him in matches and puts him in big spots. He's good on the mic in general, but he doesn't have stories anymore. He just says the same thing over and over and over. And that's just not going to cut it anymore.
I disagree that he's good on the mic. This is what I will say. He has charisma, and he's athletic. And if he actually trained to be a wrestler, like if he actually took 6 months to a year out of his life and went to a wrestling school and trained and learned how to string a match together and be a real wrestler, and he was on the road with the company and he actually did it, he would succeed. And that's pretty much what we said when he debuted. Like, if he actually tries to do this, he will succeed. But that's not what he does. He pops in and out. He has a match here or there. He has a feud here or there. They're not really long-term. The one with LA Knight was kind of long-term. And even last year, like, it was a long-term feud building into, I want to say, it was SummerSlam. Excuse me, not WrestleMania, right? Because it was in Cleveland.
Yes.
And it was like a multi-month feud. The storyline wasn't good, but it was a storyline.
Yes.
And here, they did this, like, I want to say 2 months out they started it, but they never gave us a storyline. He never showed up.
Rumble. They started at the Rumble.
Yeah, they started at the Rumble. And this was coming out of the press conference before the debut on Netflix, where Logan said, I'm going to be a full-time superstar on the Raw brand this year.
Yeah.
He has not been. The only person that has been, I mean, I think Roman Reigns has been on TV more than Logan Paul, which is, if you're going to say you're full-time, that's crazy. It's at least been equal. And someone would have to count it up. I'm pretty sure that Roman Reigns has been on TV a lot more than him. So there's just nothing redeemable about him other than the charisma and athleticism. And then you add the problematic nature of him as a person and the fact that people just don't like him. And WWE kept, well, I mean, obviously they kept showing him because he was there. But night one, they kept showing Dana White and he got booed. On night two, they kept showing Tony Hinchcliffe and all these other people that are legitimately, I think Colby Covington was there.
Colby Covington.
And they get booed. And it's like, we understand what UFC is about. And we understand what maybe the higher ups in WWE believe and what TKO is about. We get it. This audience is not that audience. And you're not going to turn this audience into that audience. You might be able to recruit some of that audience to watch this product. And maybe that's what they're trying to do. But you're not going to change this audience. And what you need to do is put celebrities on the screen who are going to appeal to this audience. Bad Bunny being a great example of that. And others like him who have been a great example of that. This is not that. Logan Paul, he's going to bring eyes to the product. He's a little bit different. Tony Hinchcliffe ain't doing shit. The Burt comedian guy whose name I don't even know, he ain't bringing anyone to WWE, folks. Let me guarantee that to you. So you're going to keep putting Logan in spots like this. If you're going to do it, you got to make him work and you got to give him storylines and reasons for us to give a shit. Because if you just put him in matches, you can even do it with AJ Styles. It ain't going to work.
So Logan Paul's wrestled 19 matches. Here's who he's beaten. AJ's, not including Rumbles and whatnot.
And I think he's lost most of them, to be fair.
He's lost some. He lost to Cody. He lost to LA Knight.
Roman
lost
Reigns.
The US title. He lost to Roman Reigns. But he has wins over AJ Styles, Rey Mysterio, Kevin Owens at last year's Mania, and Randy Orton technically, but I think he pinned Kevin Owens in that triple threat.
Mm-hmm.
The Miz, Ricochet. So like he's got some wins over like some pretty big names. I just don't know, like, what do you do with him right now? Like, he's not going to go for a world title for the reasons we just talked about.
You haven't beat Dom for the Intercontinental Championship?
Like, he's already done the US title. Like, it feels like mid-card is not a thing for him anymore. Like, why did he need this win? He didn't even do like the big viral thing with ASI or whatever. Like,
right.
Why did he need this win? He's already had 2 world title matches. He can just be given those.
I mean, we're going to have to see what they're going to do with him. If there's a booking idea where this win is necessary to make that happen. Like I said, if he fights Dom for the IC title and that gets Dom over as a massive babyface,
I guess. But like, it feels like this is mostly to set up an AJ Styles Karrion Kross feud.
Well,
it
definitely is. I mean,
I know we've loved what Kross has been doing and he's been working hard, but golly, man.
Well, Styles just beat him. He just beat him Monday night. So
that's true.
I think what it's setting up is because Kross is trying to get him to turn. It's trying to get him to go evil ways and go back to his kind of TNA deal. And if that's what they're trying to do, If that's what they're trying to do, it could work because he does work as a heel. He's a great heel, but he was just a heel and he just came back as a babyface. And it's like, why would you bring him back as a babyface if you're just going to turn him heel again?
I don't know, man. AJ Styles has maybe one WrestleMania left in him.
That's what I'm saying.
We got to give him something good. We can't have him going out like Kurt Angle and Baron Corbin.
Exactly. So look, we'll put a pin in this. We'll circle back on Tuesday with our WWE WrestleMania 41 second look. A reminder, on Wednesday, we'll have our NXT Stand and Deliver second look. And we also have Instant Analysis podcast for WrestleMania 41 Night 1 and NXT Stand and Deliver in our podcast feed. But before we get out of here, Chris, we need to give final grades for Night 2 of WrestleMania and for WrestleMania 41 as a whole. Now, our pre-show expectation grades coming in. Both you and I agreed this would be an A- show, a 93 out of 100. Our listeners are Getting Overheads on Twitter at Getting Overcast. They had an opportunity to vote before the show. They were even more bullish about this. 78.4% were in the A range, 20.6% B plus to B, 1% B minus to C plus. That was a 94.8. So a 95 out of 100. They thought this was going to be a flat middle A show. And I'll tell you something, the way the card was built and the way this started through the first 4 segments, I legitimately thought this was going to be an A plus WrestleMania night because it seemed like it was building to that. But I'm not the one who gives the grades first here on the Getting Over Wrestling podcast. You do. So, Chris, what was your final grade for Night 2 of WWE WrestleMania 41?
So the problem is we kind of have to do this off of the grades we gave Night 1. I gave it a 91. You gave it a 90.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of want to change my grade for Night 1.
Okay.
Because, man, it's tough. Like,
Let me interject something while you're struggling. This felt to me like the inverse of Night 1.
It was. Night 1 was a great main event.
And therefore I kind of think it's like the same grade. Like,
well, it's going to impact my overall grade for WrestleMania. Like, I have an overall grade, and technically the two have to go together for it. So
theoretically,
I'm gonna go an 89 B plus here.
Okay.
Because the finish to that main event was so bad, and it's the feeling you have coming out of it.
Mm-hmm.
It's like Vince McMahon used to always say, they remember how you send them home.
Mm-hmm.
And you got sent home. Very frustrating here. I think top to bottom, the show was better, but it's not everything's weighted equally. It's the way you close that gets the bigger weight. So I'm going to go with an 89 to make it a B plus.
Yeah, I think that's a really fair way to look at it because the Night 1 main event, we weighted heavy. And because it was literally amazing, it boosted our grade from where it was. I think you may have been a low B plus. I was a high B. We both wound up in that. I was a 90 and you were a 91. Here, it's literally the inverse. The main event was so important that you have to weight it similarly. But I think the difference between Night 1 and Night 2 for me is that the first 3 matches on this card were 3 of the 4 best matches at WrestleMania. So whereas Night 1, the main event lifted the entire show, on Night 2, the first 3 matches were all better or equal. They were in the same range as the main event of Night 1, right? And then once you got to like AJ Styles and Logan Paul, it was just like a trickle off the rest of the show. And I saw a lot of distaste growing as the show progressed from just social media and a lot of other people where they're like, well, that match sucked with AJ and Logan. And I don't think it sucked. It just wasn't great. And the women's tag team, people were pissed about Bayley. And it's like, yeah, but Becky Lynch came back. And like Joe Hendry came in against Randy Orton. That was really, really exciting. And I didn't think the women's tag team title match was bad. I just wasn't thrilled that Liv and Raquel lost the championships when they were doing well with them. But there wasn't like a clunker on this show until you kind of got to the main event. And I believe it's fair to kind of say that the match wasn't great, but what really struggled for me was the Travis Scott element and the fan reaction to Cena and Cody, the booing and the cheering, which I don't believe is like fair to count as the booking and the quality of what was put in front of us. It was just the way it wound up being delivered, if that makes sense. So I'm actually going to say exactly what I did for night one. And I'm going to say a 90 out of 100, an A-, because I loved the first, I want to say half to maybe even 2/3 of the show, or at least 2/3 of the show, maybe not the first 2/3 of the show. But the main event dragged it down. And I was thinking like, this is a 96, a 97. Like I was getting up there. And even with the Logan and AJ match, I was like, okay, it was not great, but Becky Lynch came back and Joe Hendry's on the screen. And like, this is all really positive. So I was still really happy with everything that we were getting, despite the fact that AJ and Logan was annoying and commentary and all that. So I was like, this is a 96, 97 if they hit the main event. They didn't. So I think dropping this 6 or 7 points because of the main event is totally legitimate. So I'm going to kind of go through this with you. I'm at a 90 for night 2, and I was at a 90 for night 1. So I'm at a 90 overall for WrestleMania.
So that's the thing. How do we rate the overall show? And if I could go back, I would knock a point or two off of night 1, I think. Because I think the last 3 Manias, at least I've given all of them an A or an A+.
The nights you have given all A's or A+. That is correct, yes.
30, I was there in Dallas, so I was a little bit, in hindsight, probably overrated it, but I liked it at the time. 39 was really good. 40 was one of the best of all time, maybe the best, and I was there. I think we gave that A+, but I don't think everybody agreed with that, being one of the best. This just like, on the whole, feels like a B+ show.
Yeah.
In the end, like a little more than half of it hit, and the closing image is one that was really bad. And I think that's what, for me, takes it from an A- to a B+ show, an 89 type of show.
I think that's fair. Yeah.
Like, there was great wrestling on night 2. But honestly, the best part of this show, the thing I have gone back and rewatched the most already, was the video package for CM Punk, which was unbelievable with this Fire Burns. I've watched it like 20 times. It's so good. I'll watch that main event, and specifically that finish, over and over again. But I'm not going to watch that Cena match or finish very much again. I'll watch Joe Hendry's entrance for the pop.
I'll watch that women's championship match.
I'll probably watch the women's match. But there's not a ton otherwise that I'm like all about, like, man, that's a moment. You know, there were not many WrestleMania moments.
Yeah. Well,
which is interesting.
I think people also get confused. Like, when we grade out of 100, you know, we're not ever going to give a show. It could be a really, really bad show. AEW, WWE, doesn't matter. We're not going to give a show a 10 out of 100, right? Like, or like a 1, a 2, a 3, a 4, a 5. It's just not going to happen because these are professionals and they do a really good job. You know, we're not watching some indie show that could just totally shit the bed, right? So that's why our grades are all pretty much between a high B- and low A+, because you're never going to have a perfect show, and you're never going to have, and even if you have a stinker, there's usually something that is valuable that's part of it. I think when you look at WrestleMania 41, there were 4 matches that were legitimately great. I think there were probably 3 or 4 that were good to very good, depending on your taste, and the rest left something to be desired. And unfortunately, one of those was the main event of night 2, the main event of the entire show. And it's just, how do you contextualize all that together? That's what you kind of need to ask yourself. And I find it interesting because if you took the best of the best, right? If you took those 4 great matches and 3 really good matches and you made a one-night WrestleMania, you had an A+ on your hands. But that's not what it was. It was 2 nights. It was 14 matches spread out. And let's also not forget, there were a lot of thorns thrown into spokes here. I guess sticks thrown into spokes is the correct term. WWE, in the last week or 2 leading into WrestleMania, lost Kevin Owens, Rey Mysterio, and to some degree, whatever, we don't know the details, Bayley, from their matches. That's a lot of changeover for your biggest show of the year with very little time to adjust. Now, I'm not saying El Grande Americano and Rey Mysterio, I'm not going to say El Grande Americano and Rey Mysterio would have like floated night one and made it an A or anything like that if that had happened. But Kevin Owens and Randy Orton, if that match happens, we love the Joe Hendry moment, but that wasn't really a match. It probably changes the way we look at night two, because that probably would have been an incredible freaking match. And that's just unfortunate. Now, that doesn't change our grades. We have to grade what's in front of us. But you do consider the way WWE built the show. It did not go the way they expected it to go.
I think my lasting feeling on this 2-night show is that WWE has among the deepest rosters it's ever had, some of the best athletes it's ever had, Hall of Famers up and down the board.
Mm-hmm.
And both main events were decided by a combined 3 nut shots. 2 from Paul Heyman and 1 from John Cena. And that is not how you should be ending your biggest shows with your biggest stars.
Sure.
Like, it takes you back to the Brock Lesnar Undertaker feud that was nut shots, and the Nakamura AJ Styles feud that was nut shots. Like, that's not good booking.
To be fair, though, for those feuds booked by Vince McMahon, those were the storylines. Like,
no, I know. It's
like,
I'm just
this
saying,
is just moves that happened in a match. But no, it's a fair point. I'm just clarifying.
It made me think back to it. It's like,
yeah,
you can do better than that. And we felt all the time coming in, the build for the show has not been great.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of matches have been lacking story. Injuries hurt things. But even both main events, I was not loving both of the stories. And one of them gave us a great match. One of them gave us an okay match with a bad finish.
Mm-hmm.
But we didn't. I had been holding out hope that they had been saving all this stuff for Mania, and it turned out to just not be the case.
Well,
so
for the night one main event they did, but for night two they didn't. I mean, the fact that we did not get The Rock on this show
again. You can't blame them for something they didn't promise to do, but we knew Stone Cold was going to be there. We thought The Rock was going to be there because he should have been there. There were a lot of, for it being Vegas, like, I was just expecting more.
There was just no excuse. And I know we already talked about it, but we'll end on this because it's really the most important thing. It's the final, match on the entire card. And we also have to give the listeners grades, getting overhead grade before we get out of here. But there was no excuse whatsoever to do this booking with Rock and Travis Scott and John Cena the way they did it. Because if you were not going to have Rock for WrestleMania, you definitely would have known by Elimination Chamber, then that should not have been done at Elimination Chamber. And if you were not going to have The Rock at WrestleMania, but you still wanted to do that at Elimination Chamber, then you don't have Travis Scott come out without The Rock. If those elements adjust, even with the match they gave us, slow plotting, Cena with ground-based offense, just trying to bludgeon him, axe handles and shit off the top rope, I still believe it would have been received better. But again, I will also point out, there was no accounting for the crowd reception to Cody. They went years, and it became a joke online. They're going to boo Cody any week now, because it would never happen. In fact, the cheers would get louder and louder, and he'd go to Europe, and they're screaming his song. And even on Sunday night, they screamed his song as he made his way to the ring because he's such a great babyface for WWE. You never could have accounted for the fact that the fans just wanted 17 from Cena so badly, and it was going to be so smarky of a crowd comparative to what it had been the last couple of years with Cody at WrestleMania, that their story, as flawed as it may have been, and it was made even worse. It was rendered convoluted, more so than they could have imagined, because of the way the crowd reacted. And it wasn't them protesting like they did for Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania 34 in New Orleans. That was a protest boo. We had no desire. I was there. You were there. We had no desire to see that match. We thought Reigns was getting overpushed. That was not the reaction to Cody Rhodes. This was a completely different situation. But that crowd, in addition to the booking, ruined the story that WWE was trying to tell.
So you've been real on the crowd part of it.
I think it really, Chris, let me just clarify.
Yeah.
I think it really matters because, and I hate to say it's a microcosm for what's happening in our country, but something starts kind of trending and it's a groupthink type of deal. And you hear people start booing Cody and it starts as just a few. And then it grows to a little more. And then all of a sudden it's the entire arena doing it because that's what I'm supposed to do. And I truly believe that's what happened.
The crowd to me did not impact my feelings at all on this match, even if the crowd was totally booing Cena for being a heel in the match, that doesn't make the finish to the match any.
No, that's what I said. The booking of the finish was shit no matter what. But the match story that they were trying to tell, when you're trying to say this is a good guy and this is a bad guy, what you're hoping is that the fans are cheering the good guy and booing the bad guy. And they literally did the opposite. So all those little moments that failed to deliver, they were exasperated even further because the crowd wasn't selling what WWE was trying to sell. The crowd wasn't buying what WWE was trying to sell. If they had, it still would have been bad, but it would have at least made more sense. That's all I'm trying to say.
I mean, I don't think the crowd was not all in for Cena.
Yes, they were.
It was pretty.
Yes, they were.
50-50.
No.
I think I'm curious what you'll think on the rewatch.
Halfway through,
takeaway was
so at the beginning of the match,
there was a lot of "Let's go Cena, Cena sucks," which was kind of the story.
At the beginning of the match, I agree.
50-50 with him.
At the beginning of the match, I agree. Halfway through the match, it was 100% 0, or maybe 90% 10.
But regardless of that, I've seen some people saying after the fact, well, yeah, the finish was dumb because John Cena's ruining wrestling. That's the story.
No, that's
I
not.
I don't buy that.
Yeah,
that's the thing people kept trying to say during the Vince era. Was
yes.
like, oh no, you're supposed to hate this.
No, yeah.
And that's why they made it bad. No, you can't make meta storylines
right.
Your storyline for your biggest show of the year when you've got all these people who don't normally watch wrestling come in to do that.
I do believe that the match itself, like the slow pace and the way he wrestled and all that, if you want to chalk that up to him ruining wrestling, not putting on a show for fans, not doing the 5 moves of doom with all of his excitement and stuff, that is true. Yes. That was on purpose.
Because he's doing wrestling.
Right. But it being bad and like Travis Scott being involved and us not liking that was not purposeful. No.
Correct. Yes. It wasn't done well. You
correct.
could not like the finish, but they did the finish well. They didn't do the finish well.
Exactly.
And so
correct.
I'm curious what this all mean moving forward. I think my last bit here on Mania is that we kind of felt coming in that this was ultimately going to be more about setting the stage for future stuff down the road. And it was going to take us into new stuff. We've got that with Seth Rollins, with Paul Heyman. We've got that with the heel John Cena as champion. We've got some new champions in some other spots. And so maybe by SummerSlam, we feel differently about this Mania, seeing how it all plays out. But while WrestleMania 40 was very much the culmination of all these stories, this always felt like a show that was meant to kick off a bunch of new stories.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean they did them all well, because they didn't. But I'm still interested in what happens on Monday, what happens with a lot of stuff going
Absolutely.
forward, because that's how it's been set up.
Yeah, there's a lot of questions that we're asking, even beyond what you said. Io in her role, and then Rhea and Bianca. You also have Dom and Finn, and you have Jacob Fatu and now Solo Sikoa, with Jacob as the champion and Solo, being close to him and not having the title. So there's a lot of individual, and AJ Styles and Karrion Kross to a much lesser degree. There's a bunch of these individual story beats that, to what you just said, this wasn't really the culmination. This was the kickoff, but it's going to be now determinative over the next few months. Was using WrestleMania in this manner worthwhile? To counter briefly what you said, it's not going to change the way we think about this WrestleMania, but it will make us understand whether it was worthwhile to do it this way or whether it was a mistake and WWE should have just gone normal course of business and then do this outside of WrestleMania. But the stage is set coming out of this for WrestleMania 42 to have some major matches. I mean, we're talking Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns. We're talking Rhea Ripley and Bianca Belair. Those are just to name 2. CM Punk potentially with Cody Rhodes. You can get there through a variety of ways.
CM Punk, John Cena.
CM Punk, well, he won't do it at WrestleMania. That would,
yeah.
But that could be a match in Chicago somewhere if they do a PLE, or it could be at a Survivor Series or a SummerSlam or something like that. We may well get John Cena and Randy Orton at Backlash in St. Louis. I mean, that's something that is very, very possible now, right? And that's next month. So all of a sudden you're looking at it from that, standpoint and you're saying, okay, this didn't deliver the way we wanted it. But to what you just said, we still want to watch Raw on Monday. We still want to watch SmackDown on Friday and see what's going to happen. I don't want to get out of the show without the fans' final grade because we just completely skipped over them. We kept talking to each other. Their final grade for night 2 of WWE WrestleMania 41. 21.6% said A+ to A. 48.5% said A- to B+. 24.1% B to B-. 5.9% C+ or lower. That averages out to an 89.5875. So it rounds up to a 90. But again, they're really the difference between a 90 and an 89. It's
right between both of us.
Literally right between both of us. And their 2-night combined score is 90 and 90. So I think they're with Silver King that it's a 90 overall. You're at an 89. I don't disagree with it being a B+. I really think for me, I just got so much of what I wanted at the start of night 2 that I kind of put it over the top for me to 90 instead of 89. But this was an immensely interesting WrestleMania, certainly controversial. And I will reiterate, this coming Tuesday on the Getting Over Wrestling podcast, we will have a WWE episode covering the entirety of the Raw after WrestleMania, some extraneous items from the SmackDown go home to WrestleMania, the WWE Hall of Fame. We'll have a conversation about Pat McAfee, and we will have a second look at WWE WrestleMania 41. That's coming on Tuesday. On Wednesday, we'll have a second look at NXT Stand and Deliver, and we'll break down everything that happens on NXT, including, by the way, Becky Lynch and Lyra Valkyria against Tatum, Paxley, and Gigi Dolan. So Lyra and Tatum going head-to-head. If you know the Silver King, if you know a lot of NXT fans, we're really excited about that. I'll also remind all of you that we have our WWE WrestleMania 41 Night 1 Instant Analysis and our NXT Stand and Deliver Instant Analysis in the podcast feed already. So don't forget those. I said Tuesdays WWE, Wednesdays NXT, Thursday, 2 weeks of AEW in one episode. It's a possibility I may need to push it to Friday because that's a lot to watch in a short period of time, but that will be coming this week. So we're wrapping up WrestleMania, but we are going full send still right here on the Getting Over Wrestling podcast. On the way out, allow me to remind you that this show
is all about Defy.
So head over to Apple Podcasts and Spotify, leave a 5-star rating on Apple. Take a little extra time, leave a 5-star written review. If you do, we'll read it live right here on the show. Don't forget to subscribe to us on YouTube at Getting Overcast. Full-length audio. You also get full-length video interviews that we have already too with Vic Joseph, Drew McIntyre. We have more coming up early in 2025 and throughout the remainder of 2025. Don't forget to follow us on social media at Getting Overcast on Twitter, at Getting Over on Blue Sky. Episode drops, news, analysis, highlights, all of that good stuff. You can still send in questions and comments for the show. We will integrate as many of them as we can into our second looks on Tuesday and Wednesday. And you can vote in pre and post show polls like the ones you heard we mentioned right here on the show. Lastly, don't forget,
I happen to love the number 5.
and I hope you do as well. $5 a month, $50 for the entire year. You can become an official Getting Overhead. Just visit buymeacoffee.com/gettingover. Sign up. You'll get bonus audio with the fastest 5 minutes in professional wrestling, instant reactions to every major show, exclusive news analysis every week, and a lot more. But really, you're signing up to financially support the continuation of the Getting Over Wrestling podcast, and we would greatly appreciate that. Thanks to all of you for sticking with us through a wild WrestleMania 41 week. A ton of episodes in the can. A ton more to come over the next couple of days. For Vintage Chris Vanini, this is the Silver King, Adam Silverstein, signing off and leaving you with just 3 final words. Bye for now.